Yeah, this is really cool. This is a submission for marathons for reverse all cards. Uh, this is the least run category in the game, and if you take a slightly closer look at it, it quickly becomes very apparent as to why that is. So, there are a lot of games that have a reverse order category of sorts. The one that I was introduced to at first that I ever saw was a reverse badge order in Pokemon, and that was at a GDQ a couple of years ago, I believe. And then, as tricks in Paper Mario developed, eventually we realized that that's actually possible in Paper Mario as well. An incredibly linear RPG. This game is broken cover to cover with all kinds of tricks that actually allow us to play the game in reverse order. The run itself, though, is so difficult to complete that I believe as of right now, only 5 people have ever finished a run of this category. So, we're in for a bit of a ride. There are some highs, some really cool tricks, and there are some slightly more boring parts to it, where we're just time traveling, back and forth, but all of it comes together to make a really difficult and entertaining speedrun.
Yeah, it's definitely a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, that's for sure.
There's a lot of really cool tricks in Rack that we don't see in any other category.
Several of them, and most of them are hard too. It's not like it's not like it's just tricks that don't get used. It's also tricks that are very difficult, which has led this to be a favorite of many people in the Paper Mario community to actually watch as well. Especially due to the fact that not many people have managed to finish runs of it, so there aren't often runs streamed live of this on Twitch. You might notice that we're stressing the difficulty of the category a little bit. If you look at the sum of best to PB comparison on my splits on the screen, you can actually see that there is a 14.5-minute gap, roughly, by the time I started this. This is not because I haven't done many runs of reverse all cards. It's because the category is so intensely difficult that it's just nigh impossible to not hemorrhage time everywhere. So, right now we're in the game's opening sequence. You'll see this in every single Paper Mario category. Bowser decides to crash the party at Peach's castle, and after a little scuffle, Mario gets thrown down from the sky, beginning the prologue of the game. This part in reverse all cards it has 2 notable tricks, but those tricks are in pretty much any glitched category of Paper Mario, so the run doesn't get too crazy for a little bit. So I suppose I can introduce myself. I'm N4. I'm the one who wants to submit this to any marathon that'll take it, more or less. And I have my friend here, Arie, who is a fellow reverse all cards enthusiast, probably more enthusiastic than me.
Yep, it's me. It's also exactly how I was going to introduce myself, but you actually just did it.
Yeah.
Just say I'm the other solid cards enthusiast.
The other one, yeah. There are actually 2 of us, believe it or not. Well, no, there's 3. There's 3. There are 3 reverse all cards enthusiasts, and there are a bunch more people who like to watch it. And yeah, so we'll just sit back and enjoy. Reverse all cards is also the second longest category in this game. It's shorter only than it is only shorter than 100% as far as our main leaderboard categories go. Due to all of the time we spend sequence breaking to get to Chapter 7 first, and then Chapter 6, and then Chapter 5. So there is we're going to be in for a long ride of some interesting and flashy glitches, getting to show that off. And right now, here we are at the Mario Story prologue screen.
You love to see it.
Yep. So this is this is pretty much the worst part of any Paper Mario speedrun, is that it starts kind of slowly. It is a JRPG with a substantially long epilogue, but thankfully we're not any percent, so there's a lot of gameplay to this too.
It's get interesting pretty quickly though.
Yeah, that's true. There's a hard trick almost at the beginning of prologue, and then there's one at the end, and then after that it really takes off in Chapter 1 with some wackiness.
Yeah.
So,
shall we step into Junior Skip, I guess?
well, Junior Skip is about 3.5 minutes away.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's hard to dub these Paper Mario runs, just because of prologue. Prologue makes it really hard to do. You gotta find things to talk about for a substantial length of time, but honestly, this is just normal stuff. Most of the gameplay in prologue is just holding the B button, if you can even call that gameplay. One of the nice things... I'll go ahead. One of the nice things about Paper Mario, in particular, that makes it stand out from other JRPGs, is that instead of text mashing, you can just hold the B button to advance text. This goes a long way towards reducing repetitive strain injuries from running this game.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. So you can see the input display on the bottom right. That B button is going to be lit up every single time somebody is talking to Mario. And we finally get to move, so this is just more cutscene stuff. We go talk to the old man on the veranda, and then back, and then we're gonna get about a 30-second long cutscene involving Cammy, where she just it's more exposition, more or less. She just followed you down, trying to make sure Mario's dead. For some reason, she drops the block on the gate instead of on Mario to finish him off. Bad move. Bad move, Cammy.
Yeah, so once we fall from the veranda, we're going to be doing Junior Skip, which is one of the, more notorious difficult tricks in this game.
Yeah.
It is a loading zone storage trick. So I guess we should get into loading zone storage. Basically, the panels that take you between rooms, called loading zones in this game, they will only take Mario if Mario is standing in them for 2 frames. So we can take advantage of this. If we jump frame perfectly, Mario is never on the ground for 2 frames, and we can move Mario so that he takes the loading zone from a different location. For Junior Skip, this means we can do loading zone storage jumps over to where the hammer is in the bush and pick up the hammer while we take the loading zone.
Yep.
This skips the fight with Junior Troopa in the playground, which saves an obscene amount of time.
It saves over a minute. It's like 1 minute and 10 seconds. And here, you get to see LZS in action a little bit. So you'll notice some of the jumps are short and some of them are long. It's basically just, the only difference is that loading zone storage is typically a double frame perfect input to get a single jump, because you want the first frame perfect input is the A, which ensures that you don't take the loading zone, and the second one is the control stick on the same frame you press A. The reason you can't just hold the direction you're jumping in is because if you're holding a direction when Mario lands, it actually begins his walk cycle, which interrupts the jumps, and that makes every LZS jump a frame perfect, double frame perfect input, and we're actually going to be seeing a lot of these throughout this run. Now, that Junior Skip is, it's what, like 9, 10?
It's a lot.
Jumps. It's like 9 or 10 if done optimally.
Yeah, it can end up being upwards of 12, 13 if you get a lot of them as short jumps. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, so here now we're coming up. We just got our first badge and our first partner, Gumborio. Gumbario is not very good in combat, unfortunately, but he has a lot of lore that he can tell you about. He'd be happy to. So
yeah, I think once we put him away, I don't think we see him until one boss fight, and then we put him away forever.
Yeah, Gumbario really doesn't do all that much for us. So you'll notice that we also got a badge that we equipped immediately. That's Power Jump. The combat system in Paper Mario revolves around lore upgrades, more or less, that are just storyline things. You get the Super Boots, the Super Hammer, etc., which you can use in combat. But the other half of it is in our badges. Badges have a variety of effects. The most important one, Speedy Spin, lets us move faster. There are badges that act as attacks, allowing us extra options in battle that we can pick from our menu. As you can see, we're power jumping the red and blue Goombas right here. And you can also only equip so many at a time, according to your current badge points. So we're using a Fire Flower to finish these guys off. The point of this fight is to drop them both to 3 HP at the same time, so that the Fire Flower's 3 spread damage knocks them both out. This skips a cutscene where if you knock one of them out before the other, the survivor whines and is sad before you finish him off too. So we don't want to deal with that, so we're just gonna kill them both at the same time.
Yes, as you may have noticed already, we've been picking up a couple of coins along the way. And this is to get that badge Speedy Spin that they mentioned already. So during Chapter 1, we're going to be picking up a lot more coins because we need 50 of them for Speedy Spin.
Yeah, and Speedy Spin is by far the biggest movement upgrade, the only movement upgrade, but it's also a pretty big deal.
It is so fast.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, you move like 40% faster and twice as far in a single spin dash, which is absolutely obscene.
Yeah.
You lose several seconds per loading zone without Speedy Spin, so that's something we need to pick up as soon as possible and keep equipped as long as possible throughout the course of any given Paper Mario run.
Yeah, there are no categories that don't get Speedy Spin immediately.
Yeah. It's so important that even if you get bad RNG and it doesn't show up at the bad shop, which is a 25% chance, the best backup is to reload the bad shop and try again.
Yeah, until you get it.
Yeah, it really is that important. It is faster to lose several minutes reloading the bad shop for Speedy Spin than it is to just not pick it up if it's not there. So that boss fight we just did was another pretty standard thing. That boss fight's actually even faster than the Goomba Bros because Gumbario, while he may not be very strong, there's a tree in the background that you can target with Mario or Gumbario that drops a Goom Nut on the Goomba King and his weakened bros, and Gumbario's turn ends up wiping out the Goomba Bros and dealing heavy damage to Goomba King in the process. He only has 10 HP, so he can't really stand up to an assault like that. And just like that, we're past the first quote-unquote boss in the game. He's really kind of a pushover. Unfortunately, we can't do this one backwards.
Yeah, Goomba King was a lot harder when I was a kid, because I never knew you could hit a tree.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely never, ever put that together. Until I watched a speedrun of this game, and then I was like, you can do that?
Yeah! There's something similar with the slot machine in Shy Guy's Toy Box. You can actually hit that, too. And roll the slots. We were looking into that for a glitchless 100% coin route at one point. It's because we had no options.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's really cool. I have to show it off sometime. So these guys are the first boss of the game. So we'll be seeing them again in about 2.5 hours. right now they're just showing off their special move to Bowser, which they're not even going to get to use, and we'll be moving on. Just another story cutscene. Now you'll notice this is a fairly big movement section right here. You'll notice that Mario's primary method of locomotion is by spin dashing across the ground. This is far faster than walking, and a typical movement cycle involves spinning and then jumping for as little time as possible, typically 1 frame, to get a minimum height jump, and then you spin again. And this ends up making movement in Paper Mario like far more interesting than the majority of other RPGs on the market, because of the way the spin dash interacts with ledges, the way it interacts with walls, and the way you can cancel it by hammering or jumping. Oh, we got a swag hammer right there. I forgot I did that. Because of the 1 frame thing with loading zones, you can actually do a hammer or a jump while taking a loading zone. It saves no time, but it makes you look cool, which is far more important than the frames you would have saved. So, here we are at another Star Spirit cutscene.
Yeah, there's a lot of cutscenes in Prologue, but once we get to Chapter 1, it's gonna get more interesting.
Yeah, we're almost out of it. We're almost out of the cutscenes.
Almost.
So you'll notice right here that I'm menuing down to the 3rd option. The options in order are save and continue, save and quit, and continue don't save. And because this game is made for N64, and the N64 has limited power, it actually saves time to buffer menuing down to continue don't save. It saves like around 0.13 or something like that, so around 4 frames, considering this game runs at 30 FPS. Every single time you see one of those boxes pop up that asks us to save, I'm going to be doing that to save some frames.
So one of the things about reverse alt cards, probably the reason why it is only run by a handful of people, is because that loading zone storage that we were doing for Junior Skip is mandatory for the category. There are tricks later that will require it, and no other category actually requires that you do loading zone storage in order to complete a run. As just mentioned, this game runs at 30 frames per second, making that double frame perfect input for loading zone storage very difficult.
It is very, very hard to keep a string of LZS jumps going. That's for sure. So we're out of the final non-Mario cutscene in Prologue. We're now heading towards the tutorial where we get the Lucky Star. Those familiar with the Paper Mario series or Super Mario RPG knows these as timed hits. In Paper Mario, they're called action commands. They're a more interactive way to play the game, I suppose, because while fighting, they give you extra commands that allow you to do extra damage. You can block attacks, and we can actually use this to our advantage, the blocking system, to make sure that we can reach Peril, which is 1 HP. That gives us a very, very high attack boost from Badge that we'll be running into a bit later in the game. So, the mini-boss that throws at you is kind of pathetic. 2 timed power jumps kills him. He only gets 1 chance to attack you. Mario can just watch. So now we have action commands, and we're just about out of Prologue. Remember, we mentioned earlier there's 1 trick at the end of Prologue, and this one is rather notorious for killing any percent runs. It is called Black Toad Skip, and it is exactly what it sounds like. There is a group of black toads blocking the exit from Toad Town to Chapter 1 when the game is in a prologue state, and this green toad right here, he can decide to not let you into the wall, as you can see right there. You need to use him to clip out by hammering. What hammering does in this situation is it actually disables collision for a frame or so. So if you're in the right position... look, he's being very rude right now. If you're in the right position and you hammer... Oh, he's being so rude. I forgot how long this guy got me. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This toad is affectionately, or maybe not so affectionately, been called the Green Devil.
Yeah.
Because of his poor behavior.
Anyway, now that we actually got out of bounds, we do a quick out of bounds series of inputs there to get behind the black toads, and now we are in chapter 1. You can see here we're collecting some items along the way. That item is also not so affectionately known. It is called a freight jar, and it is complete RNG to end a battle immediately, more or less. Because each enemy has a % chance to run away from it, depending on the enemy. So that item is a big run killer. And we're also going to pick up that sleepy sheep, and we're going to hit this block for 10 more coins. Remember, we need 50 for speedy spin as soon as we get to a post-chapter 1 state.
Bright Jar may be a horrible run killer, but it is so fast.
Yeah, it is incredibly fast. You just let her rip, and the enemies escort themselves away from you. So here we arrive at Koopa Village, which is being tormented by these little Furby things. We're gonna buy a fire flower for no particular reason, and heading on to meet with the character who will become our second partner, Cooper. So the fuzzies have been bothering him too. They've stolen. They're just wreaking havoc on Koopa Village, and they stole Cooper's shell. And we need to get that back for him. So we're gonna chase the fuzzies into Cooper's extremely luxurious backyard and get that back for him.
Yeah, so this upcoming section with the fuzzies is another RNG heavy part of the run.
Yeah, these guys can cost you up to around 7 seconds, and they're in every single category. Now this isn't normally that big a deal, but when you get bad fuzzies, your pace really feels it, especially when you're running a shorter or more optimized category. So the fuzzies in this run that we're dubbing over, they mostly behaved. It wasn't too big a deal, other than making me move a lot, between the trees, but no big deal. We get Cooper's shell back, and he's about to join our party.
Those who are very perceptive may have noticed that the fuzzy minigame there seemed a little different than it did in your casual playthrough. This is because we're playing on the Japanese version of the game, which the fuzzies move quicker in. They made the game easier for other releases of the game.
Yep, the third round specifically is very hard to keep up with if your eyes are not well trained. So that fire flower we bought earlier at the shop, it's used because it's 3 damage spread, which we saw earlier. Fuzzies only have 3 HP, so they kind of just turn into piles of ash as soon as we whip that flower out. Makes for a really quick and easy mini-boss fight, and we're out of, we now get to leave Cooper's backyard.
Yeah, it's definitely worth grabbing that fire flower to kill the fuzzies.
Yeah, no matter what kind of playthrough of Paper Mario you're doing, if you want the EXP from those fuzzies, Fire Flower is the best way to go about it.
And since we skipped Junior Troopa in the prologue, we were a little low on experience. So we need everything we can get.
Absolutely. Now you might be wondering why I went and talked to that old man over there. There is a trick very, very late in the reverse all cards run that actually requires us to fill up our key item inventory. And we have routed in the 32 fastest key items to obtain, because that's the max that Mario can hold. And we need to We need to have 32 in our inventory at the same time for a reason that we'll be talking about when it comes time to perform that trick. For now, we're doing the first couple of Kubaku favors to get the silver credit from him and moving on.
Yeah, so over the course of the run, we will be running all over the place, collecting as many key items as we can. And they will help us out at a later time. We'll explain it then.
It might look like we're just running around collecting random items, but everything that you do in reverse alcohol cards actually has a very specific purpose in the long term of the run.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the things that makes the category really cool and different.
Oh yeah. So you might notice Cooper has a special ability. He doesn't just do things for us in battle. He also has an overworld ability where Mario can kick his shell to hit or retrieve distant objects from him, depending on whether they're collectible or not. So we use that to grab a Thunderbolt, which is important for a backup in a series of fights we have in a bit, and if we don't need the backup, it just makes the last fight a little bit faster. So as you can see here, Mario actually has the ability to first strike enemies in the overworld. Usually this is not fast unless the first strike makes a difference in how many turns the fight takes. Like this. So we, by first striking the Koopa, we flip him over and reduce his defense to 0, which means a single power jump kills him. And then Cooper can annoy the Bob-omb into blowing himself up on Mario, thus saving us the trouble of killing him too. Now we're actually coming up on another trick here. But for now, we're just going to go grab that pink-looking thingy back there. This pink shoe is arguably the most overpowered badge in Paper Mario. It's called Power Bounce. And what it does is it lets you bounce on a single enemy until you miss the timed hit, or the action command. And this trick is Staircase Skip. This allows us to sequence break a little bit. It lets us get Bombette before fighting a pit of Koopas. She is very, very useful for taking them out. It also skips a fight, but primarily this saves time in that we have Bombette for the pit coming up.
Yeah, so as you saw with Cooper's shell toss ability, Bombette also has an ability where she walks forward a couple of steps and then explodes. When you hit an enemy with this explosion, it deals a ton of damage. So we will be using that pretty soon to make these fights a lot quicker.
Yeah, the best part about Bombette's explosion ability, being able to first strike enemies, is that it actually doesn't use flower points when you use it outside of battle for a first strike. But it does the same amount of damage as her bomb in battle does. Unlike Cooper's Shell Toss, which behaves just like an untimed hit, Bombette's bomb does full damage for 0 FP, which makes it first strike with her basically the most cost-effective nuke we have in the early game.
Yeah, it's really good.
Well, now we have another fight coming up. These guys, we're going to use the Fire Flower we collected outside on them. Bob-ombs don't like fire. They explode instantly when they're hit with a fire attack, and besides that, they only have 3 HP. So, using a Fire Flower and a timed Body Slam lets us take out this fight in one round. And of course we need all those coins, because we still need Speedy Spin. We have 27 of the required 50 so far. And you might wonder why we're continuing in Chapter 1. This is for key items. We wanted Bombette, and we want a couple of key items from Chapter 1 as well. So
yeah, we absolutely need Bombette to complete the game, and to help us get around.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's an example of Bomb First Strike being ridiculously strong. You first strike that Paratroopa, he just disappears. That dude is gone.
very convenient that it one-shots all of the Koopas.
Yep, and here's the Fright Jar, which happened to work in this run. We do have backups for if it doesn't work, so it's not a huge deal if it fails, it just costs a fair amount of time. And here is the first instance of RNG being really annoying. When those Koopas see you is RNG, so I put Bombette down and he just ignored us instead of trying to attack us, which cost a little bit of time. Not really a big deal, it's just kind of annoying if you're going for a PB or a really good run. So here's our first level up in the game. We can talk about stats a little bit. Need some water.
Yeah. So enemy locations when you enter a room are random, by the way. So we can't really consistently set up for everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of being a good Paper Mario runner is being able to react to the random things the game throws at you every single run. No two runs will be exactly the same, no matter how long, no matter how often or how long you play the game, just because of how big a role RNG plays in basically every single room, especially the ones with the enemies. So we just got 20 coins from those fire bars. You can break them for 10 coins by jumping over them 10 times. That got us 20 more coins. We're now at 47 of the 50 we want. And now that we have the 2 keys in hand from Koopa Bros Fortress, we are going to jet. We got everything we needed from Chapter 1 for now, and we're not allowed to beat it yet since it's supposed to be the last chapter we tackle. So we are leaving and going back to Toad Town to do another major sequence break.
Yeah, so we're returning to Toad Town to do another notorious sequence break called Log Skip. So there's a pile of logs blocking our exit if we were to try to go south of Toad Town, which leads to basically every other chapter in the game. And those will be cleared after we complete Chapter 1, but by getting out of bounds and using some weird properties of loading zones, we can view Mario's entrance angle so that we go right past them.
Fun thing, Log Skip actually is another loading zone storage trick, but it functions completely differently from the jump versions, or from the loading zone jumps that we would do. And the reason is that you can store loading zones out of bounds by falling beneath them, which is what we end up doing here. After a quick NPC clip, this is just like Black Toad Skip from earlier, we get out using Ralph and the bad shot. Line up just a little bit with that, and we're gonna fall. Everything's gonna look real wacky for a little bit as we're trying to store the correct angles. And as soon as we get that, we are going to schmoove right out of bounds beneath the logs and land way over here. So the reason that works, Junior Troopa Skip works because we interrupt the Hammer Get cutscene with the loading zones, with the loading zone taking us. The reason Log Skip works is because of an interesting visual effect they added to loading zones in this game. If you take when you take a loading zone, the angle that you walk into the next room is actually determined by the spot on the loading zone you took in the previous room. And same with the direction you're facing as well, if you take a vertical one. So the reason behind that is for an interesting visual touch, but it actually has a side effect of if we manage to store a loading zone and take it from a completely different location, our angle into the next room is skewed. In the case of Log Skip, it's skewed so much that it takes us right out of bounds the second we walk in the room.
But also, you may be wondering what the whole out-of-bounds deal is. When you fall out of bounds, the game, after you fall a certain amount of units, the game checks to see if there's any land above you, and if there is, it'll teleport Mario up to that spot. That's kind of how we fell into the next room, and landed on the other side. If the game does not find any land above Mario to teleport him up to, then it'll put him in his last known location.
which is how we actually do the second. We transition the first part of log skip into the second. We store the loading zone and make sure that there is no land above Mario, so it puts him back at his last known location. And then we're at the edge of the world, so we hold a direction to fall off immediately, and then we use that angle that we fall off at to get into a position where our angle would be skewed significantly. Here's another trick, by the way, that's just rock climb. It's exactly what it looks like. You can just jump up on that rock and go through some one-sided collision to get up here a little earlier. This saves time only in combination with another trick called early seed, which is another, tends to be another run killer for most players of this game.
Anymore.
Yeah, well, it's still pretty bad, but there was tech found very recently that improves it that we're actually going to see coming up right here after we grab the second letter for Paracary, who actually is going to be our fourth partner. And he also happens to be one of the best, if not the best, as far as fighting bosses.
He definitely missed his calling in life. He should have taken a job at the dojo.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so early seed. This trick, I remapped my control stick, and we're trying to jump into a very specific location so that spinning and then tapping left immediately, this is taking a few tries, as this trick tends to do. I gave up, I went for another angle. The angle and the timing of the Z press, as well as the location, are very specific, but you can actually pop out of bounds onto that rock down there, and then it's a simple matter to jump down and drift right while out of bounds to land next to this bubble for the second magical seed. This saves about 30-some seconds if done optimally. Because it means we don't have to backtrack with Paracary to grab that seed anymore.
Yeah, we're once again using that property of going out of bounds there. When we jump off and hold right, the game will check above Mario and it'll see there's land above him and teleport him up to where the bubble is, even though we weren't over there.
Yep. And now that
Very
we have
useful property.
Now we have all three of Paracary's letters that we're going to return to him, and you might have noticed there were 3 coins on that slide, which puts us up to the 50 necessary for Speedy Spin.
Yeah. When we give the letters to Paracary, conveniently, he will give them right back to us
Yes.
when he joins our party. And
So-
those are 3 more key items that we'll need later.
Yep, thankfully it only consumes them when you deliver the letters, which we are definitely not going to do. We're going to make sure Paracary is as bad at his job as possible, because we need those letters for our trick later in the game to work.
Yeah. We will intentionally be switching away from Paracary when talking to certain NPCs that would prompt Paracary to give a letter.
So now we're heading back to Toad Town, and you might notice something interesting. The logs are actually going to be gone. And the reason is because we entered a Chapter 2 state. This game's storyline progress is based off of invisible triggers, which is one of the reasons that this route is even possible in the first place. You can go forward in time by hitting certain triggers that haven't been used yet, and you can go back in time by hitting very few triggers that haven't been used. Most triggers only work to take you into the future, but there are a few key ones that we take advantage of that let us go into the past. So there's Speedy Spin, by the way. You'll notice the difference immediately. Mario is much faster now. And we're gonna do a trick shot to grab the odd key inside the blue house. And now we're gonna do another loading zone storage trick. This is another method of doing the famous blue house skip. This is both slower and harder to do. The reason that I do this trick is because I run on a Arie Pad Mini, which has a smaller dead zone. And having a larger dead zone is more helpful for the normal method of blue house skip. So pretty much, BHS loading zone storage is a few jumps up onto that lower ledge, and then you just fall out of bounds and spawn inside the blue house because that's what's above Mario when the game checks for a respawn. Now, one more thing about the badge shop. Speedy Spin was there in this run, but it's not guaranteed to be. There are 4 badges that can show up and only 3 slots at this point in the game. So there is a 25% chance that Speedy Spin will not show up, unfortunately. And
yeah, it's definitely a bit of a run killer in some categories.
oh yeah.
Especially more optimized ones.
So right now we're fighting Blooper, which is honestly kind of a funny fight. Power Bounce is a very broken badge, and that it lets us bounce on enemies until we miss the action command. But there's another fail condition too, and it's RNG. The game,
of course.
yeah, the game decides after a certain point whether to just buck you off or not, and it's determined. It's calculated every single bounce with an enemy multiplier. So the more times you bounce on an enemy, the more likely they are to throw you off. Blooper has one of the highest power bounce multipliers in the game, so this fight pretty much just consists of bouncing on him until he gets bored and leaves, since we're only doing 1 damage per hit. Anyway, that's it, and because of BHS and the Blooper fight, wow, look, we're in Chapter 5 now. Amazing. But Chapter 5 isn't exactly the chapter we want either. We need to go a little deeper than this.
Yeah, but there are some important things we need to do while we're in Chapter 5. First, we need to go and start this Colorado cutscene so that the game thinks that we're now in Chapter 5. Previously, the game still thinks that we're in Chapter 2, but talking to Colorado here is going to put us in this Chapter 5 state and allow us to get our next part.
Yep, who we are about to see very shortly. She's a fish that managed to get caught in a tree. But first, we're going to take a nap at the end. The reason we do this is because we want max flower points for what we're about to do. There's a series of fights coming up. If you forget to sleep at the end, you're going to die.
Yeah. This category has us facing a lot of very powerful enemies with very low resources, so we'll be using the most of what we have, and the most of what we have right here is definitely this Toad House.
Yeah, the Toad House and the Toad House, our partners. Just we have to go all in with pretty much everything here. So. This partner, we don't know how she got stuck in the tree, but her name is Sushi. She's a fish. Go figure. And she has the ability to let us swim. I suppose we didn't mention what Paracarry or Bombette do either. Bombette blows up walls and allows us to travel through them. Paracarry allows us to float over small gaps using his ability. He just picks Mario up and carries him over. Sushi is pretty much the same thing, but over water and a little bit more freeform.
Yeah, we're gonna see a lot more Sushi later.
Oh yeah, Sushi actually is very integral to this route even working. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But for now, we're gonna pick up the Power Quake badge, which is very, very important for taking down groups of enemies in this route. So now we got a letter from the tree in the same room where we rescued Sushi, which is another key item, and we're about to go to the beach for another letter on top of a bunch of rocks, which is yet another key item for our score. Two more very compelling reasons to come to Chapter 5.
Yeah, we've gone from Chapter 1, skipped a little bit to Chapter 2, and now we went to Chapter 5, and next we're gonna be going back to Chapter 3.
Yep. So, the biggest reason to pick up Sushi this early is that she allows us to swim across that dock and access the Chapter 3 area. But first, we have to go through these Dark Koopas. which is why we needed the Power Quake badge. This is very, very strong against any shell enemies because it flips them and takes away their turn. So we just abuse this to clear these groups of Dark Koopas well before we would normally have the resources to otherwise.
Yeah, Power Quake is unique, I guess, or the set of Quake badges is unique in that their power is just determined by the badge and not by what hammer you have.
Yep, so even though we have the low base hammer upgrade, it still does 4 damage on a timed Power Quake. Even
Which
though we have Baby Hammer. It is very, very powerful, and it's scaled to be more powerful the weaker we are, which is convenient because we can sequence break to get it quickly.
Yeah, definitely dealing 4 damage to every grounded enemy was not what we were supposed to be dealing.
Oh, not at all.
You're not supposed to have power this early.
And you might notice that it's taking 8 flower points per battle, and we only have a max of 10. That's why we brought so many, that's why we brought that honey syrup and that jam and jelly in here, was just so that we could power through these fights way earlier than normal.
And since we need these FP items for the second and third fights, we had to take that Toad House.
Yeah, we had to take the Toad House to make sure we had enough FP for the first fight.
Yeah.
And here we are, we're with our second level up. I would talk about the stats now, but there's another trick coming up very shortly that's kind of important. It saves a little over a minute. It's called Record Skip. And it...
Not only does it save over a minute, but it skips having to use the key item Record, which we will be picking up later and taking with us on our journey.
Yep, so doing this trick right here allows us to save another key item, as well as save a minute from not playing a couple Boo mini games. So, the reason this works is because we're using Bombette to push that NPC out of the way a little bit. You don't need to do this for the trick to work, but it makes it far more lenient on your position. And then you spin, and hope you land in the correct position, and press A frame perfectly to open that chest without getting the record or playing the record, which means the record is just going to be sitting on the floor later when we go into the room where we're supposed to get it. And that's another thing Bombette can do. She has this really weird property where when she lands from using her explosion ability, you have 1 frame exactly where you can push NPCs. We don't know why. It just works.
Yeah, we really have no idea why. This definitely does not seem like it was intended, but it just kind of happens. So we take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's not intended, but it sure is useful. And now we are playing the mini game for our first upgrade. We're supposed to get this after clearing chapters 1 and 2. Naturally, we haven't done either yet because of all the sequence breaks in this run. But these are the super boots. They give us a +1 to our jump attack, and which ends up being a +2. I had to chase that boo down a little bit. We end up getting +2 per standard jump, and it applies to all of your jump badges as well. So power jump now does 6 damage instead of 4 on a timed hit, etc., etc. And we came here for the super boots, but we also came here for Bo, who is the 6th partner we're picking up.
And since we're here in chapter 3, why don't we do a little more?
Yeah, there's some more we can do in chapter 3, and this is where there are actually 2 main routes for reverse all cards at this point. Amazing for something that only 5 people have ever run, but there are 2 routes, and the major divergence is coming up immediately after we get Bo. So we're going to pick up this Boo Portrait that allows us to access the upper level where we get Bo. And there's a neat little 40-second cutscene for us to just sit and observe while she talks to us. But on our way back up there, we're going to grab the record, which we didn't play the game for. We completely skipped it. But since we skipped it, it's just sitting on the floor in here for some reason, instead of being completely inaccessible.
Yeah, it's just there.
Yeah. The booze got sad we didn't play with them.
Know why.
Yeah, no, I don't think any of us do.
I mean, I would guess it has something to do with the story progression being past where you're supposed to get it, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah, a lot of things about this game are still a mystery, even to the people who play it every day.
Yeah.
So, while we're here, we might as well talk about Bo. Her power is turning us invisible, which is far more useful in combat than in the field. There are a couple of applications for it in the field, but most of them are rendered obsolete by just moving fast.
I actually don't think we ever use her field ability in the run.
Yeah, we don't. The only category that does, I believe, is glitchless. And,
for that one spot in Bowser's Castle.
Yep. So her field ability is not very good, but her in-battle ability, she can do the same thing in battle for 2 FP, which makes Mario invulnerable for a turn. And it skips Bo's next turn, so it's 2 FP and 2 partner turns. But this ability is so powerful for boss fights that we're going to see a lot of Bo since our stats are so low in the early game. Quote-unquote early game, of course.
Yeah. So we're going to continue doing Chapter 3 for a little bit here. You take it away.
Yeah. So the reason that we're still in Chapter 3, the newer route for reverse Alucards gets Mega Rush early. Mega Rush is an extremely powerful badge. For 1 badge point, it allows you to increase your attack power by 4 while you're in peril, which is absolutely ridiculous considering how small the numbers are. Oh, here's a letter, by the way. So that's another key item. It is so powerful that we found it worthwhile to go out of our way to collect it early. The other route doesn't do this, and as a result, it has fights that are a lot more painful to get through.
Yeah, we cut out multiple turns in multiple fights by getting this early, and because we are able to open up some shortcuts in Chapter 3 on our way, and complete half of it while we're there, we actually save time when we come back here later, as we can go directly to the top and skip having to do all the stuff that we are doing right now.
Speaking of all the stuff we're doing right now, I forgot about this. That Clubba is a major troll. So a property that is unique to Clubbas is that their club is considered part of their hitbox. So if they swing and then you land in front of them where they swung the club, you first strike them, and that's what just happened right there. And here
Did we talk about family save at all?
Nope. You can skip a cutscene with an out-of-bounds trick a little bit ago. I don't even remember what we were talking about. I think the Mega Rush early route.
Yeah, we saved Stanley. In that cutscene, Stanley gets eaten by Tubba Blubba. By skipping the cutscene, we have saved Stanley.
We have saved Stanley, and he brought a gift of about 20 seconds with him.
Yeah.
By not watching that. Now, the other route, the only reason we don't know for sure which route is faster is because, 1, the other route does Chapter 3 all in one go, and 2, the other route doesn't have to do Stanley save because you entered Chapter 3 for the first time in a completed state. And, being able to access areas out of order in this game is actually a very interesting reason why this route exists as it is. We're gonna come back here to Chapter 3 later, and I suppose we'll talk about that the first time we enter a chapter in an already completed state. I think that'll be Chapter 4. We're opening up a shortcut right there. But basically, if you enter a chapter in a story state past that chapter, all the puzzles are solved, which saves a lot of time when you're going through the chapter to do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, this is once again because of Paper Mario's sequence-based structure. Because we are in a later story, our story progress is past the point of when we would have completed those puzzles. The game just assumes we've already done them. So they're all in a completed state.
Yep, and here is Mega Rush. That is our all-powerful badge. That badge is going to save us a lot of time and a lot of pain in some of the fights earlier on. So now that we've gotten Mega Rush, we have now entered the time travel part of the run. So, see, our current state is Chapter 3. The first chapter we need to beat, which we're finally ready for, is Chapter 7. So we're going to need to do some tricks to make that possible.
So when we did our detour to Chapter 3, we got Bow and Mega Rush, which are going to be very useful. But what we really came there for was actually just the Super Boots.
Yeah, the Super Boots, actually, if the Super Boots make this time travel that we're going to show you here in a little bit, they're what make that possible. But that's still a little bit away.
A little bit away, yeah.
First, we need to find our way back into Chapter 5, so we're going to go back to the volcano. One of the things we mentioned earlier, I believe, is how some story triggers are infinitely repeatable to bring you forward or backward to the part of the game you're supposed to be in when you hit them. And one of those triggers happens to be talking to Colorado at the volcano. So we're going to, wait, no, we don't need to do that.
It only goes forward.
Yeah, it only goes forward. But basically, we're in a Chapter 3 state going to Chapter 5. Notice how there are 2 sushis on this screen right now. And now we're going to do another skip called Yoshi Skip. We're going to get out of bounds right here using an interesting property of Paracarry that I don't think we fully understand. And we're going to hop around a loading zone out of bounds. And Colorado's going to follow us out of bounds because he has no personal space issues. And we are going to do a very precise out-of-bounds spin and jump to skip basically all of Chapter 5 and head right into the volcano from here. So, for those of you keeping track, we did Prologue, we went to Chapter 1, beat about half of it, we left, went to Chapter 2, did almost nothing, we left, went to Chapter 5, did almost nothing, we left, went to Chapter 3, got Bow, the Super Boots, and now we're back in Chapter 5. And this time we're going to quote-unquote complete it, using a trick called LP Skip, which allows us to advance past Chapter 5 without actually beating it within the chapter itself. We're gonna grab that Fire Shield badge there. That's for Final Bowser. We're not gonna see that for a while. But we do need it, and here's another major upgrade we're getting right here. No, it's not that Life Shroom, it's the Ultra Hammer. Here's another quick little trick there called Lava Puzzle Skip. You actually don't have to do that at all if you just use Paracarry and hold down left on the stick at the right time. So that lets us skip a puzzle and a cutscene, and because of the trigger-based story system, when we go back through that room in a second, that puzzle's already solved, even though we didn't do it.
Yep. Grabbing the Ultra Hammer sets our story progress past the point of doing that puzzle, so the game just assumes we've already done it.
Yep. Bless Paper Mario.
Yeah. But using the story triggers in our sequence to our advantage is a big part of routing this game and playing this game. One of the things that makes this RPG really interesting.
Absolutely. So we're just moving through the volcano normally. This is something you would do in pretty much any category. But now we can talk about the super blocks. Now we already used one on Paracarry earlier. We were just talking about something else. These upgrade your partners to give them an extra attack and make their existing attack stronger. So we just upgraded Bombette from normal to super rank. We can't access Ultra Rank because of Yoshi Skip. We actually skipped the Ultra Stone. But Bombette being super rank is actually incredibly useful for us. The reason we upgraded Paracarry to super is because Shell Shot does extra damage, and it's already a very powerful, very fast move. But the reason we're upgrading Bombette is for utility, because her level 1 move is Power Bomb, which strikes every enemy on the ground with the same damage as a bomb, which as we mentioned earlier, is extremely powerful at all points in the game.
Yeah, and due to her upgrade now, it deals 6 damage to all grounded enemies, which is a really good rate.
Yeah, it's a little costly at 6 FP, considering how low our stats still are, but it's going to be absolutely invaluable for getting through Chapter 7.
Yeah, Chapter 7 and Chapter 6, we'll be seeing a lot of Bombette.
So that wall is just made of paper, and you can see it looks destroyed on the other side. That's because we skipped another story trigger, and it just assumes that the wall blew up. So now we're going to do Lava Piranha skip. Grab that maple for use later. Here's another NPC clip with the hammer. Disabling collision for a frame lets us get out of bounds, and we can just move on down here. And this is how you complete Chapter 5 without completing Chapter 5. We have not completed it in any meaningful way, except that the game is now advancing us to Chapter 6.
Yeah, so normally when you defeat the boss of Chapter 5, Lava Piranha, the volcano would start to erupt, and Mario would need to escape through this back section. But if we just get to the back section without fighting Lava Piranha, the game assumes that we've already done it. And
Yep.
and we can just do the volcano escape cutscene, and it'll take us to the next Peach cutscene.
Yep, and in that case, this is, we were in Chapter 5, so this is the post-Chapter 5 cutscene that we're going to start on now. Peach is going to ruin a quiz show. Nobody gets to have fun today.
This show.
You might notice, if you're paying attention to the splits on the right side, the next split is Peach Warp 1, and the split after that is Peach Warp 2. There are even more Peach Warps after this, but for now we're only doing 2. Save some of it for later.
It's pretty silly.
Yeah. The glitch guys go to the volcano 6 times. And in Reverse All Cards case, that is true.
Actually do.
Yeah. So these Peach cutscenes, we're only playing them. There's no reason to play them other than to advance the story, because the methods that we use to advance our story progress put us in the next Peach cutscene. So every time we do a Lava Piranha skip or a Peach warp, we have to play through one of these Peach scenes. I know I just called it a Peach cutscene. It's not a cutscene. It is a playable section. Paper Mario players just get so bored that we call them cutscenes. Because they're incredibly
I never thought about that.
Yeah, we always just take it for granted, right? We call it, oh, it's the Peach cutscene. No, it's gameplay. It's just boring.
Until you get caught by one of the guards and you lose, like, 50 seconds and you feel really silly.
Yeah. So here for the quiz show, we are deliberately answering as fast as possible and just mashing the A button. We do not want anybody to win this quiz show, and by getting an answer right, we gain a point. By getting it wrong, we lose a point. So we're just mashing the A button until the end of the quiz, where we're going to manipulate so that we have 0 points, just like these poor guys on the side who never got to answer a single question.
Yeah, interestingly, just mashing A through the whole thing means that you win. So we have to intentionally choose a wrong answer on the last question so that we don't win.
Yeah, if you just mash A the whole way, you actually win 2-0-0. And we can't have that because that plays a cutscene that loses time.
Yeah, winning it gives the host will give you a jam and jelly, which of course we don't need. We're never going to be putting anything in the chest for Mario.
Yeah,
so
unfortunately there is no fast way to access that jam and jelly, so we don't need it. And we're just gonna keep moving on from here.
So after this this Peach scene here, we're gonna get to one of the more fun and exciting tricks of the run.
Oh, absolutely. So now the Peach scene has ended and we're getting our power that we didn't earn from the Star Spirit that we didn't save. Fun fact about Star Spirit powers, they're updated just like story triggers. So when she gave us her power just now, it also gave us the power of all 4 of the Star Spirits that we were supposed to have saved before her. So,
and this is going to be very important. Because we're going to be making use of these star powers.
We are going to need them with how strapped we are for resources at this point. So now we go here and get the volcano vase. We just go to where we saved Sushi. The only thing that we do, besides Sushi Peach work, spoiler, is we need to get that and give it to Colorado, otherwise we're going to softlock later. So let's not do that.
Yeah, we're not picking up this key item just for a key item this time. This time we actually need the last seed so that we can get to Chapter 6 later.
We are going to use that in a little while. So this trick that's coming up, you might notice we're going back into the volcano. Why is that? Well, the volcano end sequence is broken, just like how we activated it before without fighting Lava Piranha. You can repeat that to take you to the end of whatever chapter you're in, as long as you have a method to get to that room. And as it turns out, through some RAM manipulation involving save block and a spring, and our super boots, we can actually manipulate it so that we can ride Sushi on land with a series of somewhat precise inputs.
This is definitely one of my favorite tricks in this game.
Oh yeah.
If not my favorite. It is so funny. And also really very, honestly a miracle that we're able to do it.
Yeah, it's incredible that it was even discovered that we could do this. So we're coming up on it right now. Got an encounter, oops. So you might notice that I'm going to save before doing this trick. That's because if you make any mistake whatsoever, you will soft lock. So we don't want that. So what we do is we hit that spring down there, which sets the number of cutscenes we're in incorrectly by ending one when we haven't started one. And then we spin jump into the save block, which allows us to store something. It allows us to... I'm not entirely sure how it works, but it lets us store a state. And it lets us move while menus are up. And then we pull out Bombette and use her, and that sets that our partner is being used to true. And then we swap partners to Sushi while spin jumping and take the loading zone, and the result is this beautiful combination of incredibly improbable things happening in memory that allows us to do this. So this is how we're gonna get back to that room.
Sushi on Command is one of the most powerful glitches that we can access in this game. It means all walls are completely a joke to us.
Yeah.
We can basically get wherever we want. Unfortunately, we can't leave the volcano because, as we just saw, the room with the ramp, it will take us from the top side to the bottom side no matter what. For some reason. I don't really know.
Nobody really knows that either.
Unfortunately, the volcano is locked behind one of those rooms at the very entrance, so we aren't allowed to leave with Sushi. But all we need to do is just take Sushi to the end, and we can do what's called a Peach Warp, and activate the next Peach cutscene, which would be the one in Chapter 6.
Yeah, you might be feeling...
Without beating Chapter 6.
You might be feeling a little deja vu right now from this cutscene. It's because it's the exact same one that just played when we did Lava Piranha Skip. But it was a lot harder to access. We had to do some RAM manipulation with Sushi. Normally, the same glitch is done in any percent with the partner Lackluster, who makes it much easier, let's be honest. It is way easier to Sushi Peach Warp with Lackluster, or to Peach Warp with Lackluster. But since we can't go to Chapter 6, if we go to Chapter 6, we can't leave it. We have to beat it the first time we enter with the seeds. Or we will never be beating it at all, due to the way Chapter 6 is coded. The only way to enter it with your story progress set correctly is to plant the 4 magical seeds in the Toad Town Garden. You can also Peach Warp to it, but it's in an already completed state if you do that. So there's no going in, getting Lackluster, and then leaving, unfortunately. So we had to make do with a much more complicated glitch involving Sushi, which we're going to do again after this Peach intermission.
Yeah. Get familiar with this volcano escape cutscene, because we're going to be seeing it many times this run.
Yeah, we have 4 more volcano escapes left in us. One more coming up soon in this split, Peachwork 2, and then we have to do some more time traveling at the end of the game to get to Chapter 8 after beating 1, so we're going to be doing another LP skip and another set of 2 Peach Warps, just to get our progress back to where it needs to be to go fight Bowser. Anyway, that sneaky parasol we won as a consolation prize for nobody winning in the previous quiz show in the last intermission allows us to transform into different characters. So here's something interesting we can talk about. A lot of things in Paper Mario are controlled by story progress triggers, and plenty of them are also controlled by flags, which is completely separate, like 0 or 1, you know, a bit, like whether something's happened or not. And it determines a lot of things, like whether chests should be closed with their items still in them, whether you've given an item to an NPC, it might change their dialogue. Some boss fights are controlled this way. This dude guarding this door up here, he is also a flag. He is not a storyline-related NPC, which means if we ever do this Peach scene again, we will. He is going to just be gone. So the first time we do this is the longest time because we have to do the whole sequence, but any future visits to this Peach intermission, and he's just not going to be there, so we can just walk right up to the top.
Yeah, this is actually great, because when we come back here, inevitably, it'll be a lot quicker.
Yeah. We only do this Peach intermission 3 times in a reverse all cards run. So.
Yeah, only 3 times.
I hope you guys don't get tired of this either.
Yeah.
So Cammy's gonna reveal our disguise. Oh no. I think she's, in English, she says something about you smelling too nice. And that's what reveals her disguise. Apparently she should have not taken a shower for a few days leading up to it. So now, look, another Star Spirit we didn't save, giving us more power we didn't earn yet. So we now have 6 bars of star power and 6 different Star Spirit abilities we can use. But before we continue, we're gonna hop on this vine. It's gonna take us up to Cloudy Climb, where we're going to grab a badge and then leave. Unfortunately, there's no real way around this. This is a long cutscene, and we have to watch it both ways, but the badge that we're gonna get up here is way too powerful to pass up with our resources situation.
You know what? I actually just thought of a way that we might be able to skip this, but let's talk about that later.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we can worry about routing out Super Jump Charge another time. But for now, this badge is ridiculously strong. It's called Super Jump Charge. For 4 FP, it allows us to supercharge our jump, you know, as the name says, which adds 3 power to our next jump attack. And this applies for jump times 2. The +3 is present in both hits, which also means that it combines very, very well with our Power Bounce badge from earlier, meaning that every single hit of Power Bounce gets that +3 from Super Jump Charge. And the best part about it is that it stacks. So you can charge multiple times. You charge twice, you have +6. You charge 3 times, you have +9. And in combination with Mega Rush's +4, and Power Bounce's ability to continue hitting enemies until you drop the action command or the action command drops you, you can deal ridiculous amounts of damage to bosses in a single turn, which is the strategy that we use for most of these fights. Not all of them, but we use it for most of the longer boss fights. Anyway, I hope you missed the volcano, because here we are to do another Sushi Peach Warp.
Yeah, we have conveniently assembled all of these badges and all these badges that we'll use together to create a very, very powerful Mario that can shred through bosses.
The Mario's only weakness so far is that we are level 3.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the only way to deal with that is by killing enemies. So we're still kind of weak for now. We only have 3 badge points and 15 flower points, which means Chapter 7 is going to be probably the biggest obstacle in the entire run up until the end. But such is the nature of a reverse order category.
Yeah, don't worry, we have ways to get around it.
Oh yes, we do. So we're gonna do another sushi peach warp, hit the spring, super jump or spin jump under the block, pull up the partner menu, clear the save, put bombette down, spin jump, swap to sushi, and we are riding our fish in the volcano again. What a sentence.
Sushi Beach is something special.
Yes, it most certainly is. So now
Definitely.
Now you might be wondering, we're at the end of Chapter 7, right? Why would we do this again? Well, this Sushi Peach Warp isn't to set our story progress. This is to save time.
Well, also we just can't get into Chapter 7 without doing this because we would need the Ultra Boots, which are hidden behind getting Blackula. We can't go to Chapter 6 because if we go to Chapter 6, we need to complete Chapter 6 due to the way that Chapter 6 is with planting the magical seeds.
True.
So we actually just have to do this to get into Chapter 7.
Yeah. So, my mistake. All cards is the route that does this to save time. Reverse all cards, we have to do
all
this.
cards does this at the same time.
There is no other way to get
You
to
really
Chapter
don't
7.
have a choice. Again, it is an absolute miracle that this is possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is.
So now we're going to do another Sushi Peach Warp, and what this is going to do is place us at the end of Chapter 7. We're going to get the pre-Chapter 8 Bowser cutscene, and, wait. How do we get into Chapter 7 from here? I thought we were at the end of it. Well, as it turns out, there is a very convenient story trigger that works retroactively. It takes you back into the past, where all you do is open the front door of Crystal Palace, and you travel from whatever your story progress in the game is. It takes you to the palace in Chapter 7, where you're supposed to be at that point.
Yeah, once per file, opening that door will put you right there in story progress. So, convenient, as we just complete Chapter 7 and then walk right back into it.
Yep. A very, very interesting way to access it. The all cards category, which is this category but same, has you just do it to skip like the front 2/3 of Chapter 7. There's a lot of sequence that you could do, or you could just peach warp and then walk back into the door. So that's what all cards does. Reverse all cards has to do this though, and all of a sudden it took us over an hour. But we're finally ready to beat our first chapter.
Also, you may have noticed that since we completed Chapter 7, we got the Star Spirit power of of Kalmar from Chapter 7. Yeah, that was it, right? Kalmar.
Yeah, that's his name.
Okay. Which is Up and Away. Up and Away is a very, very powerful move in that it will delete your enemies 95% of the time.
Yeah. Very, very powerful move.
Yeah, it is 95% to make, like a Fright Jar, make your enemy disappear without gaining any star points on each enemy. 95 is a pretty good rate, but sometimes it doesn't go your way.
Yeah, sometimes it just doesn't work, and that sucks. Unfortunately, we will be saving before any Up and Away attempts in a marathon, because if we got 2 consecutive dinks, we have to use it once, and if it dinks and then we have to do it again and it dinks a second time, there actually isn't backup for that anymore.
Yeah,
thankfully there's a save
so
block right
unlikely
here.
to happen.
It is
It's so
incredibly
unlikely to happen that we haven't come up with anything.
Yeah,
Point,
there just is nothing. We have no resources to back it up. I mean, I guess you could use focus until you can Up and Away again, but that's actually the worst thing I've ever said. So, yeah, let's just hope we don't have to do that. Anyway, Up and Away is used to delete these guys. These are duplicus. They are incredibly tanky. They have 15 HP, which is an absolute crapload to deal with as a Mario with our current low stats. So we just told Carl, that's our nickname for him, Carl, to just delete them, and he does. Nice guy. You might notice that they're still there after the cutscene, but they turned into the stars. They're in the sky. I don't know who those imposters are. We also, another reason we need the super boots is if just accessing this chapter wasn't enough. It's because a lot of the puzzles in Chapter 7's Crystal Palace actually require you to be able to ground pound or tornado jump. You're supposed to have the Ultra Boots at this point in the game, but as it turns out, the Super Boots still work for pretty much everything you have to do. There are very few things in this game that the Ultra Boots can do that the Super Boots can't. Very, very few. So, as a result, we actually have very few problems getting through Chapter 7 with the wrong set of boots.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Yep, ran through a dead zone. But,
Quick updates, we're in the Bombette imposter sequence in Chapter 7.
Ah, yes.
So yeah, we deleted the duplicus from earlier. These guys don't even bother fighting us. If you reveal their disguises, they just run away from you. They are kind of babies. Which is nice, because we don't have the star power to up and away every single duplicus in Crystal Palace. So,
yeah, we're gonna need our star power real soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now we're heading back. Crystal Palace's main gimmick is that there's a front half and a back half to the palace that's separated by these mirrors, and a lot of the puzzles are reflected like across the middle. So by removing these Clubba enemies over on this side, it's going to get rid of the Clubba statues in the background, which will allow us to proceed on the other side of the mirror. And these Clubbas are also how we're going to get that experience that we've been sorely missing from not touching any fights, pretty much, in the first hour of the game.
Yeah, these white Clubbas are from Chapter 7 and have a ton of health and are very strong, and as a result, they give a ton of experience. So, conveniently, we'll be able to get a level here just in time for our first boss.
Our first actual threatening boss, and quite a boss he is. It's a miracle that we found a way to kill him, to be honest. He's very tough for a Mario with 10 HP and 15 FP.
We owe it all to our friend, Jump Charge.
Yeah, we owe it all to Super Jump Charge and Mega Rush, too, for allowing us to make this fight coming up so quick and painless. So you might be noticing that we're actually using Power Bomb before Starstorm. The reason for that is that the end of Starstorm's animation overlaps with the enemy death animations. You'll notice Scholar starts to leave as they're dying. So it saves just a little bit of time to use your partner attack before Starstorm, if Starstorm is going to kill the enemies. So now we've done our first badge point level up, we might as well talk... these are just puzzles in the palace, so we might as well finally explain, and nearly an hour and a half in, how stats work in this game. So you start off with HP, which is pretty self-explanatory. You also have 5 flower points, which are your equivalent of, mana or, spell casting in other RPGs. Oh, and also there's a trick right here to skip this puzzle. I don't remember if I got it or not. But anyway, you have that, which allows you to use techniques in battle, mostly badges. Badges and partner attacks. And then you have badge points, which affect how many and what kind of badges you can equip at the same time. So right now we have 6 badge points, which is going to be just enough for us to equip Mega Rush 1, Speedy Spin 1, Super Jump Charge 2, and Power Bounce 2, which is going to be our loadout for the Crystal King fight. However, we're still pretty low on FP and HP. So we're gonna grab that jam and jelly to help with our FP problem, actually. We're gonna need to restore it in the middle of the Crystal King fight.
Yeah, thankfully we'll have the opportunity to do so. We'll talk about that when the fight starts, I guess.
Yeah, we're a couple minutes away still. So that badge we just grabbed is another important badge for the mid and late game, and Final Bowser especially. It's called P up, D down, and you would think, yeah, it does exactly what it says. Your attack increases by 1, your defense decreases by 1. But as it turns out, for the sake of routing the end game, both of its effects are actually beneficial to us. Our defense being reduced allows us to manipulate Peril to get into Mega Rush range more often, and the power increase allows us to kill enemies faster. So both effects are actually really good, and the badge is only 2 badge points as well.
A really good rate.
We don't have a use for it this early, but that's a badge that you're going to see coming on and off several times during this run, according to how we need to manipulate Peril at any given time.
Yeah, it's part of our toolbox to getting to 1 HP.
Fortunately, we don't need it for the Crystal King fight. I say fortunately because we would not have the badge points to equip it if we did. So here's a little puzzle. These guys were unfortunately not used in the game. They have stats coded as enemies, but no fight with them actually exists. Instead, they control this puzzle where you to access the Crystal King, the boss of the level, where you just have to push those statues onto those orange spots on the ground. But the statues will only move in the direction they're facing, and you change the direction they're facing by talking to the NPCs down there. So there's a heart block and a save block right there. I think just about every avid RPG watcher or player knows exactly what's coming after that. It is our first boss fight. Well, our first chapter boss fight, actually. We've
the boss of Chapter 7. Our first boss fight.
Our first boss fight, and here we go. We are going to Minute Peril right here off of turn 1. These bits do 4 damage each, but by blocking all 3 of them, we actually get down to 1 HP perfectly, since we have 10 HP and they do 3 each blocked. So we already have Peril. And Crystal King has a pattern where if there are bits out, he shoots them at you. If there are not bits out, he generates them, as long as he didn't do it on the previous turn. Thankfully, this gives him an extremely predictable attack pattern that we can abuse in order to build up our charges and restore our FP, so that we can actually finish the fight.
Conveniently, we picked up a partner who can make us invincible for 1 turn and then has 1 turn of recharge.
Yep.
Which lines up really well against Crystal King's attacks.
Yeah, this bow kind of trivializes the first phase of this fight. But due to the fact that we're using charge strats with Mega Rush, he never goes into phase 2 or phase 3 when his attack patterns change. So we just do this until we can kill him in 1 turn.
Yeah, there is no category that sees his phase 2 or phase 3. Every category just shreds him for phase 1 because it is just so much better. His phase 2 and phase 3 are very obnoxious.
So you might notice there that I actually charged more than I had to kill him, and the reason for that is the power bounce caps on the late game bosses are particularly nasty, to the point where the only fail condition for this fight at the moment, the way I just did it, is if you get 3 capped, which is a 2% chance. Thankfully that didn't happen. By the way, the difference between a cap and a drop is if you drop the bounce, Mario falls off the enemy, and if you get capped, he flies back off of them, like if you did a successful jump action command. So that fight is routed so that a 4-cap kills him perfectly. And naturally, if we're in a marathon setting, we're gonna save because of that 2% chance that he can just decide that you're dead.
Yeah, but over 97% of the time, you're gonna get a 4-cap or more and be just fine here.
Yeah, you can get away with 1 less charge and do a 5 bounce instead, but getting a 5 or higher is only about 66% of chance as opposed to 98%, so pretty much everybody in any kind of run is probably just going to take the extra turn to charge to make sure he dies.
Yeah, especially after we've done all of these difficult and long tricks to get here.
Oh yeah.
Not interested in losing the run.
So that's how we beat Chapter 7. Our first chapter that we've seen through to the end. And you might notice this is a repeat of an earlier Peach intermission. That's because this is the way we're supposed to see this Peach intermission, is by clearing Chapter 7. Whereas before, we just kind of cheesed it with the volcano.
Yeah. This Peach scene is also different from the rest of the chapter Peach scenes in that you can actually just walk away as long as you're holding B. Because you don't have to walk around at all. You can just hold B.
Yeah.
The only real cutscene of the bunch.
So now that we're in Chapter 7, now our objective is to get into Chapter 6. There is a problem with that. We do have 3 of the 4 magical seeds in our inventory, and the 4th one is easily attainable to us. The major problem with this is that you are not allowed to plant the seeds to Chapter 6 in a state past Chapter 6. The game just doesn't give you the option to do it because the door's already there. So what do? Now we need to re-trigger an earlier story sequence, and this is where the trick Early Whale unfortunately comes in handy. Early Whale happens to be, possibly, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions nowadays, the most difficult trick that is reasonably possible for a human to do RTA in this game. Like, consistently. We'll explain a little more when we get there. For now, we're going to pick up a couple of key items. There's a letter on this screen right there. A lot of enemies to dodge to get to it, and on the way out. And there's another letter in a tree on this screen, and we need both of those. We also upgraded Bow over there. This is to gain access to her super rank ability, which is called Spook. It's basically Freight Jar in a can. But, attached to your partner, and it costs FP. However, the nice thing about Spook is that you can mash it. It has an action command, which means you can actually influence how far up the chances are of the enemy to run. The enemy's modifier for Fright still applies. It's just, it applies in how difficult it is to max the bar, rather than just being a flat chance for them to run. So, enemies that are less likely to run from Fright Jars have harder spooks to remove them. But the enemies that we're going to be using that move on are very safe to spook. They're 100%able 100% of the time in RTA.
Yeah. In other routes, there are some questionable spooks.
Yeah.
Not 100%able, especially on the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, the move is kind of rough, but fortunately we didn't have to route anything questionable in here. The super block to upgrade Bow is right there as well. We barely lose any time, and an enemy scared away with Spook or a Fright Jar doesn't give you star points, which lets you make sure you don't level up at the wrong time.
Yeah, we actually use this to manipulate our experience, make sure we level up exactly where we want to, when it's most beneficial to us.
Okay, so we went into that building. We got the toy train and the dizzy dial, and here is Early Whale. This is the nastiest trick in this game, probably. First, it starts with an LZS trick to a very specific spot, which, as you might recall, they're double frame perfect inputs just to get there, and you can accidentally talk to that toad and end your LZS too. Then you have to meander your way around this loading zone with a seam walk into a very precise out of bounds movement around. That way you land on the seam on the other side. This wouldn't be that hard, but it's a diagonal seam, which means it's a very controller-dependent trick. And, I believe I failed this one, because I got pushed back in bounds, right at the end of the trick, too. So we have to... Any single fail, whether it means clipping in bounds or accidentally taking the loading zone, means you have to do that brutal repeated double frame perfect input setup again, just to try it a second time.
Not to mention that the rooms in Toad Town are often quite laggy, and sometimes you can be right on time, but the game lags a frame or two, and suddenly it drops your LZS.
It drops your double frame perfect trick, and you have to start over, which is absolutely infuriating, but thankfully, there are alternatives to Early Whale in case you can't get it, but this is by far the fastest way to re-trigger a pre-chapter 6 state so that we can plant the seeds. So there we got around to the other side of the seam again. The reason I'm tap jumping is for very, very, very precise movements, because clipping back in bounds here is absolutely heartbreaking. You might notice that Mario somehow has the power to walk on water. Yeah, water is just land in this game. So is lava, as we'll see later. So now that we have done the trick, and it let us come out of the whale's mouth, and there's only one part of the game where you're supposed to be able to come out of the whale's mouth, and that is in a pre-Chapter 5 state, which is where we've just reverted ourselves to. You might also be wondering why I talked to that dude inside Club 64. You have to talk to him twice to get a key item from him later, and the most convenient times to do so are both early whales. Oops, did I say both? Yeah, we have to do it twice. So yeah, now we're heading into the forest to get our 4th seed, and then we're gonna head into Chapter 6. Fun fact, you would think that you would only be able to plant the seeds in in the correct state, but this actually isn't true, because Minty lets you plant the seeds at any point after you find them. It's just that and such, you can spawn the door to flower fields in any pre-Chapter 6 state, which is very convenient for routing. It's done with early whale in reverse all cards, and in regular all cards, you actually plant and create the door in a Chapter 2 state, funny enough.
Yeah, this is because the game assumes that you would have already beaten Chapter 5 if you have all of the magical seeds, because the last magical seed you're supposed to get is the one from Colorado after completing Chapter 5. So the game just sets your position to Chapter 6 regardless of as long as you're before Chapter 6 at the point.
So, since we are in a pre-Chapter 5 state, that's also before Chapter 6, because of how numbers work. So, we are allowed to plant the seeds and walk right into flower fields, as we're going to see here in a sec.
And now the game is convinced we're in Chapter 6.
Yep, as soon as this door spawns, the game drops everything. It's like, oh, you must be in Chapter 6. Paper Mario is very easy to fool.
Yep.
So now we're entering our 2nd chapter. Chapter 6 happens to be, I believe, the longest chapter in this run. And that is because this chapter is almost completely glitch-free. There are very few sequence breaks you can do, and the ones that you can do are ridiculously hard and barely save any time. So we're gonna not do them because they're more LZS tricks that save 10 seconds each. And, obviously you fail that once, and
you're losing time.
Yeah. You can't even fail a single time. Like, if you're going for that in a run, you have to be 100% sure you're gonna get it first try, for both cases. This
chapter is It's long. It's a long one, and it's just the structure of it that makes us have to play it in the way they intended. They got one thing right, I guess.
Yeah, that they certainly did. So now we're heading into this mole fight, and we're going to let them pummel us. So the reason I entered the fight with Sushi instead of Bombette is because if you would be clicking do nothing, it is actually faster to do your partner swap in battle if you would otherwise be clicking do nothing. So we switch to Bombette and then do Power Bomb, and with the help of the Mega Rush and Power Quake badges combined, we now have a 6 damage untimed mob attack with Power Quake. So we just go ahead and use that in combination with Power Bomb. These moles have, I believe, 11 or 12 HP. So between the 12 damage that we get from Power Bomb and a Mega Rush boosted Power Quake, these moles are absolutely nothing to us. But we did have to let them hit us into peril first for that to work.
It's worth it.
It is absolutely worth it. So now we're going to, we get some red berries, we're going to use those later. So there's, we swapped to Paracarry to airlift this mole. This is the hardest mash in the reverse all cards run. It is a 55% modifier, but it is consistently 100%able by humans, so we're not too worried about that. And the reason we're airlifting that mole is for experience, to manip our EXP points, since that doesn't give you XP either.
Yeah, and if you are worried about that airlift, you can actually just first strike that guy, and then airlift the one you first struck, and it's much, much easier.
Oh yeah, that's true. And since we're in peril, it would put his HP down to half. So anyway, we swap back to Bombette, and with another Power Quake to Power Bomb combo, we totally wipe these guys out. They're complete pushovers between the combined power of Mega Rush, Power Quake, and Power Bomb, which gives us a level up. Our stats are finally starting to shape up a little bit. We're still slightly underleveled at this point, but since we're going backwards and leveling up as we go, we're gonna be much more powerful than the enemies we're fighting as early as Chapter 5.
Yeah, by the time we get into Chapter 4 and below, we're gonna be way more powerful than the enemies we're facing.
Oh yeah, we're gonna...
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, we kind of start to see that here. And this room that we're going through right now is nicknamed, not so affectionately, the Death Room, because of these enemies being extremely dangerous in this narrow corridor. The Bezaps, the bees, are very, very hard to avoid, just period. And then the clouds, the Tough Puffs, they actually have some interesting behavior that makes them kind of awkward to dodge, too. But with some precise movements, it's not an issue. But inexperienced runners frequently die in that room, hence it being called the Death Room. You also have to go through it twice in every category that does Chapter 6.
Forwards and backwards.
Yep. So, this is the front half of Chapter 6 we're doing. It's basically just a fetch quest to get the Water Stone for Lily. The reason we're picking up those berries is, one, to fill our items inventory, which is important for the same trick that we're filling our key items inventory up for. Look forward to that a little later. And the second reason is because we need to give these berries to the guards that are blocking the paths in flower fields. They're hungry because they can't move, so we have to bring them something they would like to eat in order for them to let us through. So, interestingly enough, here in front of the Blueberry Gate, a hammer cancel talk is actually optimal for this movement right here. This is very complex. You don't really need to do this because you can Starstorm instead, but Starstorm is very slow to the point where getting that shooting star before doing this fight is actually faster than the alternative of just doing Starstorm after going straight through the room. The Star Spirit powers are very, very slow. And here's our first dizzy dial of the run. This is really fun. The Lakitus have 100% chance to be stunned by this, and the Spinies have 75. And this lets us conserve resources a little bit and make sure our star points don't get messed up. Because if you have Lakitus alive and able to move, and they're empty enemy spots, they have a chance to spawn a Spiny, which can mess up our experience points. But the Dizzy Dial has a 100% chance of stunning them, and then we can kill all of the enemies on field at once by shell-shotting both Lakitus once and then using the shooting star we just got.
Yeah, I don't know if we mentioned this, but defeating all of the enemies on screen at once is faster than defeating them individually, because all of their dying animations overlap and you get all the star points at once.
Yeah, it is really fast. Anytime we can ensure that without taking some other major hit and routing somewhere, we do, just because it's so fast to have them all die at the same time. Bonus points for if they all die to Starstorm at the same time, because that overlaps even more.
Yeah, but, you get some points taken away for using Starstorm in the first place.
Yeah, Starstorm is so powerful and so cheap, but it is so slow. It is incredibly slow, unfortunately.
It's really an interesting dynamic when it comes to routing, that we have such a powerful move that is so slow. Definitely get to think outside the box a lot.
Here's why this room is called the Death Room. There was basically no avoiding that bee, with how he saw me longer than he was supposed to, and then the movement for the cloud pushed me back into him. And I purposefully did not block that to get Peril to do an alternate fight on Lackey. We would not be doing this in a marathon. We would be doing a backup to make sure that the fight is 100% consistent. But I kind of felt like just running with it because it was convenient Peril. So now that we're at 1 HP, Mega Rush kicks in, and I seem to have forgotten where I was going. We actually need to go back here to exchange the Crystal Berry for the Water Stone to complete the first major section of Flower Fields, so we're gonna head back here. Any hit at this point would be death. Thankfully, we're not going in the Death Room anymore, so that is not going to happen. Yeah, sometimes that bee will just get you in the Death Room. It's less likely the more experienced a player is, but he is always a threat, no matter what level you're playing at.
Yeah, there's also one other bee.
I don't remember if that one got me or not. I guess we'll see. There's one other bee where it is 100% RNG whether he gets you or not. Thankfully, it's almost never a first strike. If anything, you usually first strike him.
Yeah, he kind of swings under you.
Yeah, he swings under you, and then you land on him, and then he dies, presumably. And it's funny, but it loses time, so nobody has time for that here. So we're placing the Water Stone down now. That's the first major part of Chapter 6. The next part is the shortest. It's just obtaining Lackey. And then the last part is finishing off the chapter. So here we have restored the water to Flower Fields. Obviously, there are still problems. The sun's not out. It's very cloudy. But at least there's water now. And Lily sure does appreciate it. And it lets us access this tree in the next room over. That actually lets us get to the northwestern part of Flower Fields.
Yeah, other reason we need sushi.
Yeah. Now you can skip this section of getting the bubbleberry from this tree with one of the LZS tricks, but it's really hard and it only saves time if you get it first try. So, maybe in a marathon run, might go for it for fun, but generally speaking, you're not going to see people go for this in PB attempts unless they're really, really feeling their LZS on any given day. So now we're heading back to go to the north, though. northwestern part of Flower Fields that we pretty much just opened up. Well, we didn't literally open it up, but we needed a bubbleberry to get in there, which is an item we couldn't get until we placed the water stone. So we got an extra bubbleberry, that's for our item inventory for that trick later, and this guy blows a bubble, and then we jump in the bubble, and then the bubble goes zoom, and we end up on the other side of this giant spike pit. This is the other bee. I don't know if he got me in this run. He might have. He did! He did! So that's completely RNG. If he gets you. If he sees you, you cannot stop him from touching you, unfortunately.
Yeah, we are immobile when we're in the bubble.
Yeah, we cannot move. So if that guy gets you, you just have to run away. Unfortunately, there's no other way to deal with that. So that can happen, but him first striking you is like really rare. If anything, you usually land on him. So
yeah, you only usually get first struck when he notices you like a little late, and then as you're falling, he manages to get you. But it's really rare.
Oh yeah. So we're about to head into this lackey fight. This is not the normal lackey fight. The only reason I'm doing this with switching to bow first is because we already have Peril. We're going to take him out with 2 power bounces instead of a slower charge fight. Normally we charge and then power bounce when he hits us into Peril. And we can do this consistently even with the Dizzy Dial RNG. Because no matter what happens with the Spinies, there's always a way to get into Peril from it on Lackluster.
Yeah, we have 2 versions of the fight, depending on what health you're at from the Spinies.
Yeah, and this version of the fight is a 3rd version that isn't even written in the route, because hopefully it never happens, but you can if you equip PFD down, you can power bounce out of sight power bounce, and if it works, it's pretty fast. He dies pretty much immediately, as he did here. But preferably you go into this fight with a little more than 1 HP.
Yeah, and in a marathon, that would be sure to happen, as we have backups for that, including the extra bubble berry that we just picked up.
Yeah, thankfully in Chapter 6, there are backup items like everywhere.
Yeah.
It's very, very convenient. And even though a bubbleberry only restores 5 HP, and that's kind of a weird number since Lackey does 4, we can equip PFD down to make that fight viable from even more HP ranges. Because if we eat a bubbleberry to get to 6, and then we put PFD down on, suddenly his attack hits us into Peril on turn 2.
Or, take a spike dip.
Yeah, if we have to do that, we can do that too. So now that we have Lackluster, we're moving into the final part of Chapter 6. That's just clearing the clouds and then defeating the boss. There's a really simple puzzle right here. You just ground pound these pillars, and now that we have Lackey, actually, we could go get the Ultra Boots, but we do so much damage that it's not really necessary to do that for Huff.
Mega Rush.
Mega Rush is way too powerful. Between Mega Rush and PFD down, there's another letter for the key items, by the way. Mega Rush and PFD down plus 3 charges means we just absolutely demolish him, as long as we can manipulate Peril correctly.
Yeah, it gives us a consistent fight over the other route that doesn't get Mega Rush, which can have you doing up to 2 extra Star Storms after using a life if things go poorly.
Which is absolutely horrid. Nobody wants to do that.
This fight being consistent and good is, or the Hufflepuff fight, the boss fight, being consistent is good is definitely one of the huge upsides of this route over the other one.
Yeah, maybe the biggest point in this route's favor over the other one is the fact that you don't have a Huff fight that can lose you a minute and a half for no reason.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah,
that fight it's worse than the Huff fights in other categories that are notoriously bad.
Yeah. Somehow worse than the No Peach Warp Huff fight. And you might notice we upgraded our BP, and now at level I think we're at level 6. That's roughly what maybe we're one level under-leveled at this point, but we have plenty of stats for the sake of beating everything down from this point on. The Huff fight is easy between our current badge setup of Mega Rush, Power Bounce, and Charge, and PMD down as well. We actually have access to even more resources that make up for us being a little under-leveled due to having gone to Chapter 7 first. So, I checked my rebadges here. I rebadged a couple times. The first time I was a little confused because I had to do something weird for that Lackey fight, so that's why I did 2 rebadges right there. I needed to double check to make sure I had everything on, and I didn't, so it's a good thing I did that. Really, really need Super Jump Charge for that fight, or it becomes, like, really bad, so...
Yeah. Thinking back to that one fight, but...
Yeah, I actually had one reverse all cards PB. It might have been the PB before this one. I had a 409, and I had a Huff fight that was 8.5 minutes longer than it needed to be, because I forgot to put on Super Jump Charge. So yeah, not doing that ever again.
Very important that we have Charge on for this fight.
Yeah, the Huff fight can become an incredibly long and drawn-out slog. Even in the categories with Super Jump Charge, if they can't kill him immediately, it can turn into a really long fight. And we have no time for that. And that's why we have Mega Rush.
This is because, unlike Crystal King, who has an extremely predictable attack pattern, Huff and Puff is going to annihilate us in 5 turns, and we need to kill him before that.
Yeah, Huff has his first 3 turns are all the same if you're not hitting him, but on turn 4 he charges up for a very powerful attack that will kill you from full HP at this point if you don't dodge it somehow. So we need, and when he charges, we can't jump on him because that does damage and forces Mario off as if we got capped. So we absolutely need to kill him before he gets his turn 4. And if we don't, it becomes very messy very fast.
Yeah, so we have 3 turns to charge up and kill him, basically.
Yeah. And other categories, they kind of just bite the bullet, and they bounce on him on turn 4, even though they don't do quite enough damage yet in No Peach Warp. And the result is a fight where you might have to Starstorm twice if you get unlucky. And that is absolutely disgusting.
It is unfavorable, to say the least.
Yeah, so we are out of sighting on turn 1 because his Body Slam does too much damage to us with PFD down on, and also for our turn orders to align. We want to take minimum damage from this wind attack, again, because of PFD down. So we end up taking either 3 or 4, which determines whether or not we need to block his attack on turn 3. Right here we took 4 damage, so we do need to block it. And we switch to Paracarry just in case of bad RNG. Paracarry can finish him off before he gets a chance to really mess us up. Fortunately, we get a 5 cap here, so Paracarry came out for no reason. Actually, it wasn't even a cap. I just dropped it because he was dead. But we could have continued that bounce if we felt like inflicting pain, but Huff is dead, and we have completed our 2nd chapter. About 2 hours in, we've completed our 2nd of 7 chapters. But
so...
getting to Chapter 7 was the longest part, and Chapter 6 is the longest chapter, so things are going to speed up a little bit after this point.
Things are going to really speed up after this. We'll be taking chapters down in, like...
10 minutes.
Fractions of the time that we did Chapter 6, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll see. Some of the chapters are as trivial as walking in and destroying the boss.
they really are. It's chapter 2, I think, is the biggest offender of that. You kind of just walk in, get to Tutankoopa, and then kill him immediately. It's really funny.
Yeah, there's a a bit of a stinker trick in the middle there, but
yeah, that's true. And we'll explain that when we get to it. But for now,
we'll get to that later.
For now, this is the second time that we're doing the post-chapter 6 Peach. Wow, can I speak? The post-chapter 6 Peach scene. And as we're gonna see in a second, the guy up at the top guarding us from going all the way up, he's just not there because he's a flag and not a storyline trigger NPC. So we can just walk past him. Apparently he went and apparently he's having a bit of a Groundhog Day issue, and he's deserted his post to try and figure out what the hell's going on with the with all the time traveling.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I guess he's the only guard in Bowser's castle that notices that we're repeating the same sequence.
Yeah.
Anyway, fortunately that allows us to pretty much skip half the intermission. All we do is walk up here. It's pretty short. Like, the first time you do this, it's the longest Peach intermission. Any subsequent times you do this, it might be the shortest one, besides the post-chapter 3 one. So, Cammy accosts us again. We're a Koopa Troll instead of a Clubba, but that doesn't seem to matter. Maybe she has a better reason for being onto us this time than how we smell, because we're not the green dude. So we get carried away, and unfortunately, this is Early Whale Part 2. We have to do it again.
Yeah, so now that we're in a post-Chapter 6 state, we need to go back to a Chapter 5 state, which conveniently, Early Whale puts us to a pre-Chapter 5 state.
Yep.
And then we can just go to Chapter 5.
Yep, and that's how we make sure that Lava Piranha is there for us to beat the crap out of him. So, but first, we're gonna take a quick stop at the dojo. This is kind of fun. You actually get key items, only one key item at a time, but you get key items from beating up the dojo members, and doing this actually allows us to skip a very difficult trick later that costs a lot of time. So we come in here very briefly just to beat the crap out of this poor little beetle.
We found that beating up Chan in the dojo to get the first Arie card and getting one other key item that was not very hard to get turned out to be comparable to doing a very hard trick that could lose you minutes.
Yeah.
So we'd just rather do this instead.
Yeah, we'd rather beat this guy up. Even at max speed, doing that second instance of Clippy in Chapter 2 is like, it might be slower, even without considering the human error aspect. It's slower.
Yeah, it's very likely that you will fail Clippy at least once, but
yeah,
we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that. That's a Chapter 2 thing. But for now, we're gonna go back and we're gonna do our Chapter 5 thing, which is Early Whale again. Joy.
Yeah.
This trick is very difficult. Fortunately, it was a lot faster the second time around. So, we do the LZS, we land in that same spot right next to the green toad. Hold up during the screen transition. Keep holding up, then fall right. And then we do our little Seamwalk movement over to the other side. Very, very difficult trick. Yeah, we got it first try this time. Tap jumping for dear life not to go too far down. And clip in bounds. And there we go, that's Early Whale Part 2. And now we never have to do this again for the rest of the run, thankfully, because it is ridiculously hard.
Yeah, we're gonna find, since we'll only be going back in time to things before the Early Whale cutscene, Early Whale will no longer be useful to us.
Yes, thankfully.
We'll never have to do that.
And remember how I said we had to talk to that guy twice for the key item? Both times we do it is right after an Early Whale. So, I just got another key item. I believe that's the melody for the, from that guy.
Yep, it's the melody.
And now we are going to do another version of Blue House Skip that's insanely easy. It's just a lackey clip inside the corner of the house. Very, very, very easy to do BHS, and the reason we don't open that up is because we need to keep the odd key in our inventory. But we can still access this area by doing a lackluster clip, like so.
Yeah, lackluster is very broken.
He is incredibly broken, and we don't even fully understand how this guy works, but he has a lot of very odd properties. We can teleport with him, we can clip inside objects, as long as we're facing away from the object that we're trying to clip into. We can get hit with spinies, as long as he's in the front slot of our inventory. All sorts of magical things. We get hit by the spiny there, but that doesn't really cause any problems, because we want peril for the next boss anyway, so taking a little damage there is okay. Unfortunate, time loss-wise, but it doesn't actually do anything majorly bad for the run. So these are the Ultra Boots. This is the last major upgrade we're getting. There is a downgrade later. We'll worry about that when we get there. But this increases our jump power to 3. We're going to grab this Life Shroom with a Slick Lure around those Dark Koopas. And now we're going to leave and carefully avoid the Spinies this time, because getting hit again without blocking it would mean death. And we also want that Maple Syrup. And now we're gonna head to Chapter 5. Remember how we skipped Lava Piranha before? It's time to beat the tar out of him instead. So here we go.
Yeah. We've been playing around in this volcano enough. We should pay him a visit.
Yeah, this is our 4th visit to the volcano, and it's to actually beat up the boss.
Yeah, it's to beat up the boss, and then you'll see what happens after.
Yeah, and there we had to do Yoshi skip again, because we were once again in a pre-Chapter 5, or we're once again in an early Chapter 5 state where we can't just walk into the volcano, so we had to do the same skip that we did earlier.
Yeah, we do that skip like 4 times.
Speaking of, we get to do another early platform cycle. We do this 3 times in the run. Fortunately, the piranha in the previous room is a flag and not a storyline thing, so he is actually gone, just like the Koopa Troll from the castle earlier. He's just gone forever after the first time. So now we make our way through the volcano for the 4th time, and fortunately this time it's pretty dang fast, being that we've already cleared pretty much everything. We don't have to stop and get the Ultra Hammer, because we already have it. And
yep, don't need the upgrade block either. We can just go right on through.
Very, very, very easy.
And we have Lackluster to make moving through the rooms a little quicker in some areas.
Oh yeah, Lackey lets us move over the lava. There's one room in particular where it's faster to jump on Lackey at a certain point, as opposed to just chilling on the platforms. So that's actually this room, and we're gonna do the rebadge in here. Quote-unquote rebadge, I just take off PFD down. You don't have to do this. In fact, leaving it on opens you up for a 1-turn phase 2. But it requires that you block a couple of very tricky attacks. So I just don't do that, and then we get peril from the fire bars to start off the Lava Piranha fight as well. So now we're...
yeah, entering with peril is pretty key to winning this fight.
Yeah, entering with peril and just burning a life shroom makes this fight very, very fast. Thankfully. And the reason we waited there is because if you don't let Colorado talk your ear off right there, you soft lock after beating LP. So, nope, let's not do that. Well, I don't think it's a true soft lock, actually. The Star Spirit card doesn't spawn, but I'm pretty sure you can go back into the previous room and then just redo the whole sequence. Either way, you would be fighting him for no reason.
You can always early whale again.
I don't want to do that. I didn't want to do it the first 2 times. The trick is very, very stressful. Anyway.
That is the power of early fail, though. You can always do it.
True. Anyway, this fight with Lava Piranha. Okay, I mismenued right there because I thought Watt was there, but we don't have Watt because we haven't done Chapter 2 yet, or Chapter 4. So I mismenued. We're supposed to switch to Sushi. I switched to Lackey instead, so we're gonna need to fix that. before advancing into Phase 2, or I will die. Really wasn't interested in dying when a minute ahead of my PB, so went ahead and swapped, did this very slowly, swapped to Sushi before finishing him off for Phase 1 with... And he dies to a 4 and a 3. 2 3 bounces if you keep P up, D down on, but it would have required that I block the Lava Bud and the Lava Piranha's head's attacks, and that's kind of terrifying. I wouldn't do that in any kind of pressure situation, so I haven't been doing it in runs yet. So this fight, or this phase, why we pulled out Sushi. We take his fire off, and then we continue beating the crap out of him.
And the Lava Bud fire attacks are also just deceptively hard.
Yeah, the timing is really awkward, and
it's very hard.
It's very different between the between the Lava Bud and the head. Like, the Bud's attack is very early to block, but the head is very late. So it is very, very difficult to get both of them. And just another reason to take P up, D down off for safety. You do have enough power that if you get a very high bounce cap, you can just kill him in on turn 1. But that's not super worth going for unless you're extremely comfy with those blocks. Anyway, you might notice that this time we split on the boss fade out instead of the card touch, and the reason for that is because we've exited the early whale part of the run, and now we have entered the card LZS part of the run. Turns out, if you store a loading zone and touch the cards with the loading zone stored in a very specific place, you can skip the Peach intermission. This is very hard to do. The Chapter 5 one is actually the hardest of all of the card LZSs that are RTA viable. By a long shot, because the distance you have to cover is so high. So you might notice that I'm failing a few times here getting the LZS warmed up. We haven't done much of that except for the early whale for a while. So we gotta get over there, and we need to touch, or we can just touch the ground and take the loading zone. That's cool too. We need to touch the card, like, roughly at the middle of it. We need to touch it while Mario's falling and close to the ground, like that. And that touches the card, which satisfies the requirement of completing Chapter 5 for the reverse all cards definition. So now Chapter 5 is done. The reason that card LZS works is because the cards actually don't do anything but set your story progress and take you into the Peach intermission, so... yeah, that's cool. This room...
Yep, so now we're just free to go.
Yep, this room's really hard. You have to move onto that platform really hard, and now we're leaving the volcano backwards, which is kind of cursed. This is what happens if you do card LZS. You have to do this, which is incredibly awkward, but it is much faster than doing the Peach intermission, especially since it's the quiz one.
Yeah, not only are we skipping the quiz, we're also skipping the volcano escape cutscene that we would have to do after touching the card.
Yep. So, unfortunately, leaving the volcano backwards is much faster.
This is definitely faster than doing all of that. If you get the card LZS and, read.
Yeah. Even if you take a while to get it, it still saves a bunch of time. Like, that was, like, what, like 4th or 5th try? Unfortunately, the,
Oh, yeah, that's reasonable. Unreasonable would be, like, 20 to 30.
yeah, that's true. And, of course, the earlier you fail the card LZS, the less time it loses, too. Card LZS is one of the biggest thing that keeps people out of running all cards, I think. Because you have to you don't have to do the Chapter 5 one in all cards. It's faster to just touch it in all cards, but since we're going backwards, it would lose time to watch that scene for no reason, so... now we're gonna head into Chapter 4 from here. And this is the point where we start... We're kind of way overpowered. We have the Ultra Boots, we have the Ultra Hammer, we have every power increasing badge, basically, that we'd ever use in this category already. So every chapter from here on is we're kind of just gonna stomp them down. And the first of those is Chapter 4. But before we do that, Chapter 4 is absolutely rich with key items for us to pick up. So we're gonna be doing a little of that first.
To do some shopping.
Yeah, a little shopping in Chapter 4, and this is why we upgraded Bow as well, so that we could use Spook on these enemies. Spook on Shy Guys and Pokies is completely realistic to 100% for a human. So the first item we're going after is the calculator at Blue Station. And we're just gonna scare these guys away and pick it up off the floor. That's one more key item down. I have to say, if I had, I would have been keeping track for the purposes of the dub, but I didn't think to do that before we started, so... We have a bunch of key items. That's the number. A bunch.
Yeah, we have a lot. When it becomes relevant, we'll tell you what number that is.
Yeah. So now, from Blue Station, we just wanted the calculator, and now we're gonna go to Green Station, which has 2 key items for us to pick up, coming up here. And we're gonna use Spook for both of them, because they're both held by enemies. Thankfully, it's really fast to do this. So we're gonna come through here. Bow also comes in handy. We actually do use her power in Green Station. I forgot about that when we were talking about how useless her overworld ability is.
Oh yeah.
If you don't use Bow for Green Station, you're gonna have a bad time.
I was gonna say, I hate to say it, but there is a way to not use Bow there. It just is horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying.
It's really slow, and it's really hard, and nobody understands it. It's the triple whammy.
Yeah.
And here's another Spook on the Pokies. The Pokies are a little harder than the Shy Guys. You can still 100% them without, like, putting any real elbow grease into it. But they're probably the hardest enemy to Spook that you don't have to go, like, super hard on the controller for. As you can tell, I barely maxed it right there. So that is our dictionary, and we are also going to pick up the mystery note from this Shy Guy. A little bit of swag there. You can enter the battle while on the conveyor, and it keeps taking Mario as the battle fade-in happens, which is really cool. Loses a little time, but it's worth it to look cool. So now we're gonna go over there, grab the mystery note, and move on to, I believe, Pink Station next. That's another 2 key items just from a quick pit stop here. Only took a couple minutes. And we're gonna go to Pink Station, and the reason we didn't go to Pink Station first is because we want to pass by Blue Station to get to it. And the reason being so that we can flip this track over, which allows us to backtrack. It allows us to access Red Station in a mid-Chapter 4 state before we would normally be able to.
Yeah, so currently the game thinks that we're in a Chapter 5 state since we just beat Lava Piranha. And that's why everything in Chapter 4 is already completed. Like all the tracks are completed, we can visit all the stations. So by flipping this switch, when we make the game think that we're in Chapter 4 again, we'll be able to go straight to Red Station without having to fix the tracks again.
Bless the fact that that's a flag instead of a story trigger.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the fast way to beat Chapter 4 in glitch categories just would not be possible.
Yeah. It's very convenient that this works out for us.
Oh yeah.
Also, Pink Station is loaded with key items.
Yeah, we get the cookbook from the loading zone to the left. We get the mailbag from that chest over there. That's 2 already, and there's a 3rd here. And this, the key item in this chest, the frying pan, also happens to be a story trigger. It happens to be both. So when we collect that key item, which of course we're not going to use for its intended purpose, we're just going to hoard it like all the others. We also set our story progress back to mid-Chapter 4, so that we can actually fight the bosses of this chapter.
Yeah, so this one serves a double purpose, which is pretty good for us.
Absolutely. And these fuzzies are kind of Omega pushovers for this point in the game. An untimed Quake Hammer with PFD down kills them instantly. And we don't even get any experience for doing so. So, there we go. We get to exit Chapter 4. You might have seen we did a cool little clip in there that meant we didn't have to deal with any enemies surprising us on our way over to the Fuzzies. So now that we have unlocked, now that we've reverted to Chapter 4 and unlocked the path to Red Station to the left, we are just going to go left from Pink all the way to Red. And this is where both of the bosses of this chapter happen to be. They're both at Red Station. So we're gonna do a quick rebadge here and hit the heart block to make sure we have full stats for the confrontation. And we're gonna head left to fight the mid-boss of Chapter 4, Big Lantern Ghost. These platforms are on RNG cycle, which is absolutely lovely. Thankfully, we managed to hit it. If you don't, it only loses about 5 seconds, but it's still like... It still sucks when you're playing at a super optimized level of play to lose 5 seconds for no fault of your own, more or less. So this fight, in other categories, this is a highly RNG-dependent fight that has a pretty good chance of killing you. But in reverse all cards, we have Super Jump Charge. So we kind of just let him hit us into peril. We whip Goombario out for his final appearance in the run. And he's gonna hit that Lantern for us. And then we will obliterate Lantern Guy in one attack with a supercharged Power Bounce. 4 Bounce does like 46 damage, which is way more than we need. So we knock him out in one attack.
Yeah, it's really satisfying to dunk on this boss.
Yeah, for context, there is a roughly 2.5% chance in every single category that he just kills you. No matter what, because of bounce caps. But thanks to the fact that we have Super Jump Charge and the Ultra Boots, a single 4 bounce is enough to do him in after 2 turns of charging. Which, as it turns out, is exactly how long it takes us to get in peril from him.
Yeah, very convenient. Keep in mind that Super Jump Charge is a badge we're not supposed to have until the end of Chapter 6. So...
it is very, very overpowered for this point in the game.
Yeah, it is. We're not supposed to be... We're not supposed to have it right now, and it really shows.
Yeah, it does. And we grabbed a quick upgrade for Watt. Didn't really mention Watt. She's the last partner we pick up, but it's only because of the very inconvenient place where she is. She is pretty useful for Final Bowser, and a little bit for the General Guy fight. This actually happens to be my favorite fight in the run, is this boss fight coming up here. So you get to fight the Shy Guy army to wrap up Chapter 4, which, incidentally, is the 4th chapter we beat in both glitchless and reversal cards, funny enough.
This fight is wonderful.
Yeah, this is really, really amusing. General Guy's another one that he's supposed to be a really long fight, but we really just we just dunk on him just like Lantern Ghost.
Yeah, it's really silly.
Yep. See, he's got his full army here, ready to take us down. But what he doesn't realize is that we have every powerful badge from basically the entire game already. So. And we have the stats to use it. So check this out. We don't even need to use FP on the first phase because Jump ×2 Untimed Electro Dash just obliterates these guys. And Wave 1 is over in like 5 seconds. And then Wave 2 starts. And then Wave 2 is obliterated with a Mega Rush boosted Quake Hammer. So they also die in 5 seconds, roughly.
Yeah. That Power Quake has got to be my favorite part of the fight. It's just so funny.
It is. They can't do anything. They can't stand up to it. They just die. And Wave 3?
For context, in most other categories, you would use Starstorm right there, which is very, very slow, as we mentioned. So getting to power quake those guys just feels really good.
It is so fast. And then here's the cool part of this fight. So we obliterate the first shy stack with a jump ×2, and then we power shock the second one so that they can't move. And this is actually normal. This is what most categories do. What the other categories don't do is then take advantage of this time when they can't move to charge. And then do nothing with what? We don't need her turn. And then a Mega Rush boosted Ultra Hammer, timed, does 10 damage, which is exactly how much HP these guys have. However, we still have our jump charge for when they were paralyzed. So we just hit General Guy with a quick bounce ×5, and he dies before he even gets the chance to fire a shot. Lovely. Gotta be my favorite fight in the entire run.
Love that we get to charge and defeat the shy stack with the hammer, so that we get to keep our charge for General Guy. It just, the route worked out really well there.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. Keep in mind, we're not supposed to have the Ultra Hammer either, so we shouldn't have been able to kill that stack in a single hammer, even with Mega Rush, but Reverse All Cards just grants us so much power for the early parts of the game. And if you think this is funny, you're gonna love Chapter 1.
Yeah. We got all the cool toys from the future, and we get to beat up some of these early chapter bosses.
Yep, so here we do the Chapter 4 card LZS, and we're off to Chapter 3, which is already half completed and with the shortcut opened, thanks to what we did when we grabbed Mega Rush earlier.
Yeah, so this is the other advantage over, well, you know, the fights taken into account. Every fight that we've used Mega Rush in up until now, which is basically every fight, at least every chapter fight, has saved us time over the other route. And now when we return to Chapter 3, where we had lost a little bit of time to getting Mega Rush, we now save it by being able to go directly to the top of Tubba's castle and skip a bunch of cutscenes.
Skip a bunch of cutscenes, skip dodging a lot of enemies. The castle is completely empty when you return to it in a completed state.
Yeah,
and right
very
now,
very convenient.
Right now, game thinks we're in a post-Chapter 3 state. It thinks we're at the end of Chapter 4 due to doing that, due to killing General Guy. So we can kind of just stroll in there and walk right to the end. It's really, really fast. So we're going to pop out. Here we are, back in Chapter 3. It's been a while.
Yeah, it certainly has been a while.
We were here like an hour and a half ago. Oh, there was a swag hammer right there into the loading zone. It doesn't save a frame physically, but it saves a frame emotionally, so, you know, we gotta go for those when we can take them. And we pretty much just run through the gulch. It's really, really fast. And, the enemies are here, but they're not going to be in the castle. All the Clubbas have deserted Tubba's castle after his defeat. Except for one particularly lazy guy who was just napping there the whole time, but we're not going to get to see him because of the shortcut we opened up earlier. Might notice...
Yeah, if you get Goombario out, you can actually tattle that sleeping Clubba. And Goombario comments on how tired he must be.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Alrighty, so we just passed the Mega Rush room. We're gonna grab that maple for later use. Maple syrups are very useful in situations where you're doing card LZS because they save. They allow you to restore your FP, but maintain peril between chapters, which is very, very useful. Unfortunately, this run had a bit of an oopsie that made that not really matter, but for now, we're going to use that maple. Notice how our item inventory is pretty full with the things we got from Chapter 6. So we're going to move on here. And you might notice there's just literally nothing happening all the way up until here. And this is going to look kind of funny. Notice there's no Tubba in the bed, but the chest is still closed. This is how we re-trigger Chapter 3. It's just by opening this chest and answering yes to Yaki. So he screams, and then the Tubba Blubba that isn't there telepathically wakes up from another location and spawns a snot bubble above his bed. And suddenly we're in Chapter 3 again.
Yeah, it's pretty beautiful.
Anyway.
Also, very convenient that it worked out like that we were able to return to Chapter 3 and open that chest to re-trigger Chapter 3.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think there were a lot of people who thought it would just crash the game.
Yeah.
Here's another quick trick. It's called Quick Escape. This is actually the first glitch we've done in a while, aside from the card LZS. You can just kind of schmoove around Tubba and then use Paracarry height gain, which is another glitch we don't fully understand, but it gets us out of bounds, and then we can leave really fast.
Yeah, the room to the right is really big, and spinning through it, although Speedy Spin is fast, Quick Escape is a lot faster.
Yeah, much, much faster. So now we basically did Chapter 3 in 2 halves, like an hour apart, which is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, really, really cool that we were able to do that.
Absolutely.
Again, it is an absolute miracle that reverse all cards is possible.
That's why I run it. I don't run it because it's easy. I run it because it's cool.
Awesome.
It really, really is. So we're just strolling back to the windmill. We have Yaki now, so we can walk in. My original thought for this was that we'd open the Yaki chest, go through the cutscenes, and then just leave. But unfortunately, in a post-Chapter 3 state, the lock isn't on the windmill for you to unlock with Yaki, even though it's a story trigger. Very, very unfortunate that one doesn't work backwards, because if so, Mega Rush early would be even faster than it already is. Anyway, here's another Steamroll boss, in case you guys didn't have enough of that. This guy dies immediately. You don't even have to attack with your partner. You just do a 4 bounce and then a 3 bounce, and he's dead.
At this point, we are just so vastly overpowered compared to our enemies. we can defeat pretty much anything in 1 or 2 turns.
Yeah, I want to note that you defeat him pretty much the same way, even if you get here at the proper time. But you kill him so fast that you don't even need your partner turns, because we're so much stronger at this point.
Yeah. Less bounces and no partner attacks compared to a normal run.
Yeah, very, very nice. And then, if you're familiar with any kind of Paper Mario speedrun, the second half of the fight is the same in all of them. You just jump *2 and he dies. Even our extra power can't make us kill him in one attack this time. Wait a minute. Alright, I have an idea. Power Jump. I think Power Jump would do it in 1 hit.
I didn't think we had Power Jump equipped this time.
We don't, but we have the BP for it. We have 1 extra. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, we'll look into that.
Yeah, we should definitely look into that, because I think that would cut out the second half of the jump animation. Yeah, because Power Jump would be 3 plus 3 plus 2. It would do 8 base, and then with Mega Rush it would do 12. So he would just die. Immediately. So, we have cleared Tubba. This is another card LZS one. Unfortunately, I failed the card LZS on this. Fortunately, it's easy to back up, but it loses a lot of time to miss this.
Also, for a marathon, there's a save block right outside that we would take, so that this doesn't happen. But
yeah, for sure. But this was this was primarily a PB attempt, or primarily a recording for a submission, but it was also a PB attempt. So I didn't save; I just went for it. Hence the riskier strat on Lackey earlier. We would never do that in a marathon setting. And that is actually the most common way to miss a card LZS. If you touch the ground right in front of the card, and then walk into it, that's a fail. We don't really know why. It just is. So now we're
card
gonna...
LZS is not very well understood.
Yeah, that's another thing that, like, we know why it fails, and then I accidentally menued down to save and quit. I briefly thought my run was over, and then I realized that it actually saved, so now we're here in the Peach scene that we would never normally go through this in a reverse all cards run. Unfortunately, failing a card LZS, it happens sometimes, and it puts us here. This is one of 3. Yeah, this is one of 3 that are, like, completely skippable with card LZS. And then you can skip the post chapter 5 scene too, but only once. You still need to watch it at least one point to set your story progress to get the seed from Colorado.
At least 2 times.
Yeah. If you're doing the chapter twice for whatever reason, then you can skip it the second time. So, this is the pre-chapter 4, where Bowser asks you what Mario's greatest fears are to place the enemies in front of the chest. But we just mash A because we're not going to chapter 4 anymore at this point. We already cleared it. The power of going backwards.
Yeah. So next we'll be heading to chapter 2. But first we'll be opening up the sewers pipes so that we can go directly to Dry Desert instead of having to go through Mount Rugged.
Yeah, absolutely. It's much faster to take an optional boss fight and get there that way than it is to go the intended way through the desert.
Yeah, not only that, but we're going to be taking advantage of these pipes pretty soon.
Yeah, those pipes are pretty useful later. So now, I unfortunately, with my head hung in shame, having just missed that scene, or that card LZS, we're heading back, and we're gonna go fight Electro Blooper, which is the path immediately left when you enter the sewers for the first time. The bloopers are actually interchangeable. You can fight any of them at any of the locations. It just depends on how many bloopers you've already fought. So this was completely off the rails. I needed to get Peril from him for the coup de grace, so the fight's a little scuffed. If you get the card LZS, it's as easy as bounce times 5, out of sight bounce times 4, and he just dies, but because we didn't head into this with Peril, it's a little more awkward. I sacrificed Bo to get the electric charge off right there. And dropped that bounce on purpose because I knew that he would die if I got a Peril power bounce in. So that's exactly what we did here. Easy peasy, Electro Blooper's dead. Unfortunately, we've lost a lot of time due to that Peach intermission, and we're losing even more. Because there is actually a fair bit to this split. Kind of a lot happens in only roughly 4 minutes. So we equip badges, pop out in Dry Outpost. At this point I was kind of flustered and I forgot that I needed to do things in the shop, so I actually took the loading zone and then I was like, wait a minute. Turned around, we actually have to use this shop. This gets us another key item by buying items in the correct order. So we go Dusty Hammer, Dried Pasta, Dusty Hammer, Dried Shroom. Unfortunately, I had an extra item for some reason. I think it was the POW block drop I had earlier, so I had to sell that in between. Fortunately, it still works if you have to sell something. And he gives you the red jar, which is a key item, and that also maxes out our normal item inventory for use later. During the key item overflow issue that we're going to do. Because, as it turns out, and we'll go into this more in a bit, there is only one way to re-trigger Chapter 1. And it is, unfortunately, a very complex and very RNG-heavy trick that requires our item inventories to be full.
Yeah, and the entire route is built around it.
Yeah, pretty much everything... pretty much everything we do through this entire route is setting up for the voyage back to Chapter 1. at the end.
We'll talk more about it when we get there.
Yeah.
But for now, we're going to be going back into Chapter 2. Back to the Dry Ruins.
Yep, so we went all the way to the left instead of heading right to the ruins for a key item from that tree. And now we're in the ruins. Ruins is hilariously fast entering it like this. All of the puzzles are pre-solved, but the keys are still just sitting there. So we grab the first key, it's pretty much impossible to avoid. Then we go into another room, grab the second key from a pre-solved puzzle, and suddenly we have 2 keys. That's 2 key items already. And we pretty much just walked in here. And to actually finish Chapter 2, we need to grab the 3 stone keys. So one of them is right down here. This prevents a little bit of backtracking for getting it now. And the stone chumps die to Power Quake, which we aren't supposed to have yet, but a charged Power Quake just completely destroys them.
Very convenient.
Yeah, definitely. Even if without PFD down, they would die to that. And here is Clippy, everyone's favorite trick. This is a frame-perfect input upon encountering an enemy while riding Lackluster. You have to pull up the partner menu. Because it is frame-perfect, and it gets you into an encounter, every single time you fail it, you lose around 10 seconds. So this is... And it's frame-perfect, too. So it is very, very difficult. Thankfully, we got it on the 3rd try. That's not too bad at all, considering the difficulty. You have to pull the partner menu up on the 2nd frame only of getting the encounter, and there are 3 frames in it. And the reason we want Clippy is because we can shove our nose into this door, and if we keep being persistent, eventually it just lets us through. And these doors are not actually doors. They are loading zones covered by a wall with a lock on it. So if you can move your way behind there, you don't actually need to open the lock to get through there. You just need to touch the loading zone behind it. And we pick up the artifact, and the reason we killed Chan at the dojo is so that we could use this key here. By getting the warehouse key in Chapter 7 and killing Chan at the dojo, we're actually able to completely skip a Clippy. That Clippy up there in that Pokemummy room with the question mark block actually saves 2 key items, but it takes a very long time to do. It takes a very long time to do, and it requires a 2nd Clippy, so we actually routed that out for this route.
As you just saw with the first Clippy, it was 3rd try, and that's already losing like 30 or more seconds. It's a brutal trick, so getting it out of the run is definitely an advancement.
And it's just a bonus that it's also faster.
Yeah, it's also faster.
If it weren't faster, we might still do it, just for the sake of the run being, like, easier.
Yeah.
So here's the downgrade we mentioned a while back. When we get the Super Hammer, it actually overwrites our Ultra Hammer, which is going to cause a problem later that we can deal with, but it is going to cause a problem later. Thankfully, the Quake Hammer badges scale only to the badge and not the hammer we have, so grabbing it actually doesn't decrease our power. And I hit the super block there thinking this was a different category. But we don't actually use that super block, we just need to come in here and kill this stone drum.
Yeah, so the purpose of grabbing the super hammer here is the game doesn't quite think we're in Chapter 2 yet, but grabbing a super hammer will make the game think we're in Chapter 2. And that will allow us to defeat Tut and Koopa and get the card to spawn. If we were to fight Tut and Koopa without doing this, then the card would not spawn.
And we cannot do reverse all cards without cards, so we needed to do that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So now we have unlocked the path to Chapter 2 now, or to the boss fight, and the boss doesn't even spawn if you're not in the right story progress. And if you do manage to encounter him, there is a way to do that without the stairs down. He doesn't even spawn the card. So the game is actually very picky the cards only spawn when you beat the boss of the chapter and you have the correct story sequence, which is part of what makes routing this game somewhat difficult if the cards are involved in any way.
Yeah.
Anyway, watch us defeat Tootin' Koopa instantly with Power Jump, Shell Shot, Power Jump, Shell Shot. He doesn't even attack us, just like the heart. He is 30 HP. Power Jump does 9, Shell Shot does 6. He summons his buddy, and then we kill him, and his buddy just watches him die.
It's very funny to look at this fight next to, like, the glitchless fight, for example, which does the same thing, but it takes 3 turns to defeat him.
Yeah.
We just do it in 2 because we're absolutely jacked at this point.
Yeah, we are way stronger than we're intended to be. So you might notice there was a split there. That's because this is another card LZS, and this, contrary to what you might think, since the Chapter 3 one is what I failed, and the Chapter 5 one is the longest, this is arguably the most difficult, despite Chapter 5 being so long. And it's because it's really awkward to start. Remember how these are frame-perfect, double frame-perfect jumps? There are only 3 of them, but you have to do them into the arch that, like, stops your jump height. So your jumps have to be either immaculately spaced, or you have to do a small one at the beginning, which makes it impossible to use the rhythm for LZS that you might be used to at this point.
Yeah, this one is deceptively very hard.
Yeah, it's definitely, like,
LZS terms.
If you look at all cards, which does the chapters 2, 3, and 4 LZS, the chapter 2 one, despite being the shortest, is far and away the most difficult. Like, easily.
Yeah.
And then, only the chapter 5 one is really competitive with it, and you only do it in rack.
Yeah, and then there's, Chapter 6 card LCS, which is just not RTA viable.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you can do the card LCS on the card after defeating Huff and Puff. However, it is so hard. You can't even see the ground. There are multiple elevation changes. It is just not feasible for a human to do an RTA.
Yeah, multiple elevation changes, but you can't tell exactly where the elevation is changing. It's absurd.
Yeah. So anyway, we have a few more key items to collect. Here's one in this tree. The reason we get this after is because of the stone keys we pick up in the ruins. We don't want to be tossing key items early. And here's something cool. This is a trick that was found recently, mostly used in glitchless. It's called Outpost Jump. You can just kind of schmoob your way up there by jumping on that wooden pole. It saves about 5 seconds in glitchless. Not sure how fast it is here, but I mean, it's clearly faster to do that than going all the way around the map.
Yeah. So, everything, we've completed all 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and 2. Everything is coming together now. As we're preparing for this magnum opus, if you will, of reverse all cards. The glitch that made it all possible, really.
And
that is trigger prologue.
It is horrible. So first, we switched to Cooper, because if we had Parakarry still out, he would try to deliver a letter to Goompa, and that's just not going to work, because we need that letter in our inventory. This tape...
That would actually end our run.
Yeah. The tape that Goompa just gave us is the 30-second key item, and as you might remember from earlier, I had too many items in my inventory to buy everything. So we have 10 items in our normal inventory, and 32 items in our key inventory, which means our inventories are both full at this point.
Yeah.
So we can't pick anything up.
The Paper Mario guidebook that comes with the game says that the key item inventory is unlimited, but
nope.
They clearly were not doing the same glitches that we did.
Yeah, they did not. The playtesters did not have the tech that we have nowadays.
Under normal game.
Oh, you're breaking up.
In circumstances, you would never ever hit this limit of 32, and that's why I felt pretty confident in saying that. But of course, with the power of glitches, such as Early Whale, we have the power to.
We have the power to
get so that we.
Yeah. We have the power to do this.
As many limit.
Now, since our item and key item inventories are full, this dolly has nowhere to go when we pick it up. And fortunately for us, that save block is sitting right above Junior Chirpa, the prologue version of Junior Chirpa, who we skipped earlier, who is currently sitting 1,000 units below the origin of the map. And what this means, and why we're tossing this dolly around over and over again, is, well, there's also the LZS too. We did the LZS, let's break it down, we have time. So, we did the loading zone storage trick to fall out of bounds, and the reason we did that is because it grants us the power of a Cooper super jump. By using Cooper's shell toss ability, when we have recently fallen out of bounds, there's actually a stored value from our out of bounds falls that it stores our momentum from when we get shot upwards as the game returns us to land. And we reset there because the dolly was impossible to get on top of the save block from that position. Anyway,
with the saved for this trick.
Yeah, we always save before this because it is completely RNG. And of course you have to do the LZS every single time, but thankfully this room isn't laggy like Early Whale. Anyway, what we need to do is get that dolly on top of the save block. And the reason is, if we have a Cooper Super Jump stored, and the dolly is on top of the save block, the Cooper Super Jump will clip us through the save block into the dolly, which will pull the menu up and preserve our momentum from the Cooper Super Jump. So while that menu is open, we're actually flying upwards for a very, very long time at very high speeds. And what this does for us is it, see, look at that? That's the Cooper Super Jump. What this does for us is that we're ascending infinitely while this menu is still open. And as soon as we close it and toss something, we start falling to the ground. And the speed increases and increases, and eventually, when we have enough speed, we clip through the ground and then encounter Junior Chirpa, who's stored below the stage. Unfortunately, that attempt didn't work because we didn't keep the menu open long enough. So we clipped through the bottom and then barely clipped back on top, so we have to start all over on this trick. This plus the RNG, the dolly can just decide not to go up onto the save block. There are a couple of things to getting it up there. First of all, Mario never throws an item towards the background, it's always towards the foreground, which means if the dolly goes too far forward, it's over. If you accidentally jump, or you use Cooper's Shell Toss, it gets rid of the stored Cooper Super Jump, and the dolly only drops from the tree once per save file, once you've collected it like this. So, see, I jumped right there, that was it. I had to reset because the Cooper Super Jump was gone and we couldn't get the dolly back. This trick is notoriously finicky, and unfortunately, it's also the only reason a run like this is even possible, because retriggering Prologue is the only known way, at least at this time, to retrigger a Chapter 1 state.
Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely something. A couple other notes about retrigger Prologue. The reason why the dolly is treated like a normal item, and we're able to throw it around like that, is because key items are stored directly above regular items in memory. So when we pick up our 33rd key item, the game tries to put it at the bottom of our key item list, which is actually just the item list. And then it's like, hey, this item, our items are full. What are we going to do? And then it starts treating it like a normal item once we throw it the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why that happens. Yeah, the reason why, you might be wondering, why is Junior Troopa sitting 100 units below the stage? This is because in Paper Mario, characters that are like used for cutscenes that are not currently being used are stored 100 units below the floor. This is so that when they're needed for the cutscene, they can just teleport the character from that space below the stage over to where they need to be. and this saves time because they don't have to like load the character in the middle of your cutscene. It makes it more seamless. All of the loading for characters and stuff is done when you enter the room. So that's why Junior Troopa's down there.
Yep. And now that he's down there and we have successfully encountered him, this is Prologue Junior Troopa. He has 5 HP and 0 defense, so we just beat the crap out of him. Jump times 2 kills him, and that is our key item overflow done, which is... And now, because we just fought the Prologue Junior Troopa, this actually is a repeatable story trigger that reverts your file's save, or your file's progress, back to Prologue. So now we're in Prologue.
It's not repeatable because you can't get the dolly again, but...
Yeah. It would
once
be... It's repeatable in the sense that if you somehow reached him again, it would work again. But you can only do that once per save. With technology that we have today. And here's
with our current technology.
Here's a cute little glitch. You can just clip through that Lackey gate to save a little time. If you swap partners to Lackey, while you're still in the room after fighting Prologue Junior, by the way, the game crashes, and that sucks.
There's a bunch of crash conditions here, so we're playing very carefully with our partner swaps to ensure that we're not crashing the game here.
Another reason we save. Yeah, we're in Prologue. We're not supposed to have 8 partners. We're supposed to have Goompaw.
Yeah.
Anyway, all the stuff we did over 2 hours ago, all this Chapter 1 stuff, it's all back, because we're now in Chapter 1 again. And it is time to make the Koopa Bros regret the day they were born.
So we'll be taking the pipes back to Koopa Village and going straight to Chapter 1, dodging all of that prologue nonsense.
Yep, no need to do any of that, no need to do any prologue stuff, although it would be there if we wanted to do that again. But let's not.
Do it again.
So we're going through Chapter 1 again. We watched this cutscene about 2.5 hours ago as well, the green Koopa Bro locking that key inside. Mario's back, but he's way stronger this time, so maybe his reaction of complete terror is a little more justified this time.
Yeah. Okay, so very interesting thing coming up in the next room. So we have 2 fortress keys from Koopa Bros Fortress, the 2 that we got earlier, at the very beginning of the run. And we are going to open the one at the bottom, or open the door at the bottom, then leave the room, then come back, and we're going to do reverse staircase skip, which is very similar to the staircase skip we did at the beginning of the run, except we're going to be going to the other door on the left. You may be wondering why we're not just opening the door on the left immediately, and why we're opening this other door first. It's because the keys in Koopa Bros Fortress are, like, hard-coded, and the door at the top will not interact with you at all until you have opened the door at the bottom and left the room.
Yeah, very strange that we have to do things in that order, but it is a lot faster than playing through Chapter 1.
Yeah, so also reverse staircase skip, something you don't see anywhere else.
Yeah, this is the only category where you would ever even think about doing that.
Pretty spicy.
Very, very spicy.
Yeah, then you get to do pie jumps, but with Paragary.
I just did them normally since I had Cooper out.
Oh, you did them normally. Okay, yeah. So we had real pie jumps.
Yep. That glitch is so tame that it's allowed in glitchless.
Well, it's not a glitch, you're just jumping around the thing, but...
Yeah, I know, but it looks like a glitch.
It does look like a glitch. It's definitely not what they intended.
Yeah, certainly unintended. Certainly not developer intended. The developer intended way to pass that, so...
you can also just carry across a bunch of times if you'd rather not lose your run this late, but...
Yeah. So anyway, we're on the rooftop. This is the end of Chapter 1 sequence. Very, very, very cool. There are cannons and they shoot at you. It doesn't really matter if the cannons hit you, because if you get first struck by a bullet, then it's free peril. Now, you don't want to, But if you just incidentally get first struck, you let the other two first strike you, you gain no experience, the battle ends, and suddenly you have peril, which means you dunk on them even faster than you would normally.
Yeah.
So,
in this run, we get peril, so we get to see a pretty silly version of this fight. But usually it would just be the same thing, but a couple more jumps.
yeah, it's only slightly faster to have peril. It doesn't balance out getting the encounter, but it's enough to where that encounter is like you just kind of shrug and go, oh well.
Yeah, it lets you take that room a little more scary than you might normally would.
Yeah, especially with Speedy Spin. You might notice how Watt was already inside when the cutscene started here. You're not supposed to have her. I don't know why she spawns there, but it's just something they didn't double check for, because why would they? And it's really funny.
I believe it has something to do with the flying part. It's a similar...
Oh, you're cutting out pretty bad. Just now. I think Arie, I think you might be driving through through bad reception.
Yeah, I think I am.
Okay. Anyway, well, the flying partner thing, you seem to be fine now. The reason we switched to Watt is because untimed electro dash is the fastest way to knock them over, and jump times 2 kills the Bowser mech. Untimed electro dash knocks them over, and an untimed Quake Hammer kills them. Absolutely pathetic. You don't even need action. You barely even need action commands in this fight. You just need the jump times 2 on the mech, and that's it.
You actually just run them over.
Yeah.
and the untimed electro dash to knock them over is really funny. So
it is. You wonder why it's even coded that way. Like, why does it do that? Nothing else does that except bomb, to my knowledge.
Definitely, I feel like it might have something to do with Watt's armor piercing quality.
Oh yeah, that might be why.
But yeah, who really knows?
Not me. Anyway, we've collected our final card. We have done the chapters in the order 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now we have to go to and kill Bowser. And this is... I hope you guys are... I hope you guys missed the volcano. It's been a while since we've been in there. We're about to make 3 more trips.
Hope you like volcano.
Yep, because at this point... Cool, we beat the game backwards, but now we have to get all the way back to Chapter 8.
Yeah. So this is, actually, it's not the bathroom break part yet.
Not quite.
That'll be in a few.
Yeah, the LP skip too.
We have like one more pretty cool thing coming up.
Yeah, there's some pretty unique tech in this split right here. And then bathroom break is the second set of Peach Warps, aka our 6th and 7th trips into the volcano. Yeah, this is the post-Chapter 1 Peach cutscene, which we should have seen 2.5 hours ago, but are only now seeing because we decided to play the game like rebels.
Yeah. I think the moral of the reverse alt card story is that Paper Mario is just hilariously broken.
Yeah,
do whatever we want.
You really can. There are very few limits on like what's actually possible in this game. If you look hard enough, you can find a way to do almost anything you can think of. Which is amazing for a linear story-based RPG. Absolutely incredible. It's not even open world. It's so linear and yet so broken.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
So anyway, Eldstar sees us bullying enemies well weaker than us, so he takes away some of our power. And now we only have 1 bar of star power and only refresh for abilities.
Of our star power.
Yeah, He takes it away because we've been using it irresponsibly, so now we have to go get it back.
Irresponsibly for -6 chapters.
Yeah. Anyway, now we go back into the volcano, and this is the unique trip into the volcano. Although there is one more thing. During the 6th trip into the volcano, we'll do something else that we haven't seen previously, but the 7th trip is just a repeat of the 6th.
Yeah, I guess the next 2 trips are interesting if you haven't seen it before, but...
Yeah.
The 7th one is actually just, we're just doing it again.
Yeah, the 7th one is irredeemable garbage. There's...
Yeah.
It is the P-break of reverse all cards. And, anyway, we have to do Yoshi skip for a 3rd time. Enjoy. Gotta do that to get into the volcano, which means Colorado's gonna follow us out of bounds again. What a guy. You know, if we could break out of bounds as easily as he could, there'd be a lot more that'd be possible.
Meet Lackluster.
Yeah, right? Meet Lackey. So now we're into our 5th trip into the volcano, and our 3rd time doing Yoshi skip in early cycle. So yeah, we just watched this, and the nice thing about this last trip is that we have lackeys, so if we mess up early cycle, we can just get on lackey.
Yeah,
and
so
continue that way.
Yeah, coming up just now, remember in Chapter 2,
we downgraded our hammer, and that is a problem because we need to break an ultra block. So we have to do this. Really awkward out-of-bounds trick. This is float perfect, actually. This is very precise, but there is a setup for it. And we can just kind of move on there past the ultra block. Sorry, I cut you off because you were cutting out.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Okay, alright, cool. Anyway, Ultra Hammer Skip is a lot harder than I just made it look. There's a reason that my current PB still, because this run didn't PB, lost almost 2 minutes to it because of how precise it is.
Yeah. It's also the reason why I do a different, much cooler method, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, there's a cool method and there's a fast method, and the one I just did was the fast method in the run.
I mean, the cool method is only a little slower.
That's true. Oh, but also you might soft lock, and that's scary. But
well, I mean, that's why you hit the safe block. But...
Yeah. Unfortunately, right here, I forgot that Colorado was going to accost me again. I forgot we were in mid-Chapter 5 state, and I actually had to do Flare Carry again. For the 3rd time. Or, well, the Flare Carry 3, Electric Beagly. Anyway, here is our LP Skip 2, and we're about to ruin the quiz show for the 3rd time. Well, no, second time. It's the other one we do 3 times. Oh yes, Bombette chose not to blow up the wall as just a symbol of her free will, right there. So we're done. We're through LP Skip 2. We got 2 more Peach Warps and then Chapter 8. Interesting that even with Bombette refusing to blow up the wall, this actually still golded. Because Ultra Hammer Skip is so hard.
Yeah, first try there is real good.
It wasn't even first. It was like 3rd, I think.
Oh, my bad. I mean, I'm not watching.
Yeah.
I
I think I failed. I think I failed lower jump the first time.
Oh, it's once you got down there, it was first try, right?
Yeah, once I got down there, it was first try.
Yeah. All right. That's kind of what I meant. That's the part that I like feel is the
hard part.
yeah.
I mean, the jump you have to do to get down there is, like, fairly precise, but it's pretty easy compared to the rest of the trick.
I mean, yeah, but you could also just lackey into that area, which is, like, pretty free.
Yeah, I've heard you can do that, but I've never seen someone do it. Apparently you can lackey clip through the ultra block.
Yeah.
Never seen it. You can lackey clip through the ultra block, apparently. I have never seen someone do it, but it's written in the original reverse all cards route that you can that's one of your options for getting through it.
That was talking about lackey clipping into the area for ultra hammer skip.
The area for ultra?
Yeah.
You can you can do that?
Yes, you lackey clip into that.
I didn't know you could. Oh my god, I didn't know you could do that. Okay, I thought it was clipping through the ultra block, not clipping into the glower jump spot.
No. If there was a way to clip through the ultra block, you bet I'd be doing that.
Yeah, I thought that's what you could do. Like the way it was written, I just thought that you could clip through the block. Oh my gosh. Especially because it like the fence clips that you have to do to get out of to get out of Goomba Village, like it's the same kind of thing, so I was just like, oh yeah, you can probably do that. Nope.
Oh my god. No, they programmed those blocks pretty well. They're insurmountable.
Unfortunately.
Except by, our 4 methods to get past them.
Insurmountable, except for all of the ways in which we've proven that wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, that saved so much time that I actually ended up green at LP Skip 2, despite the fact that I failed a card LZS and lost multiple minutes to the dolly.
Yeah, that's just how crazy this category can be when it comes to RNG and tricks, not going your way. It's just so jam packed with things that can go wrong.
Yeah, even world record, his SOB to PB gap is like 8 minutes, and that's the best run that was ever done of this category, and the gap was still that big.
Yeah, one of these days I need to sit down and watch Jaycog's run of this, see where exactly things went wrong.
Yeah, I watched his run to learn Ultra Hammer Skip, and a couple of other things, because there just like weren't resources for the things I needed to learn to do rack. Yeah. So I just watched his run and learned how to do things like that on my own. That was fun, but I wouldn't do it again with the resources we have now.
Yeah.
So anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying our 6th trip into the volcano. This time we're doing normal Peach Warp. This is the same kind you'd see in any percent or an all cards run. You can Peach Warp with Lackey, which is faster and easier.
It doesn't soft lock your sometimes.
Yeah, the Lackey version only soft locks if you make a fairly serious mistake, whereas the Sushi version can just soft lock you if it's having a bad day.
Yeah, if it feels like it.
So this is actually much safer. Unfortunately, both of my... The reason this didn't PB is because both of my Lackey Peach Warps were really bad. Unfortunately, I mean, you'll kind of see when we get there. I tried to back them up quickly when I missed it, and that ended up resulting in me missing it more because it's a really precise trick.
Yeah, the teleport is frame perfect.
Yeah, unfortunately. So,
yeah.
The anatomy...
It's one of the tricks that, like, it looks trivial, and when you get it first try, it's like, oh, it's so easy, and then sometimes you just sit there for a while just not getting it. It's so frustrating.
Like, really? Which you're about to see. I believe I failed this for about 40, 50 seconds? Something like that.
It happens.
And it happened on both Peach Warp splits. Otherwise, I might have PB'd this even with a failed card LZS, which would have been amazing. But yeah, this is the frame-perfect clip that Arie was referring to just now. Some people call it bottom clip if they're feeling especially memey, because that's what it... There used to be a version where you clipped up top. That was the one done for a long time, so this used to be called bottom clip at first.
Yeah, top clip is not, it's slower and nobody does it anymore.
Yeah. So there we go, finally succeeded. Lost a lot of time. That was what killed my PB right there. It wasn't the failed card LZS, it wasn't the dolly wasting like 4 minutes. It was that. But that's okay. Life moves on, and you know, I'll keep practicing this. This category is fun to run. I kind of want sub 350, maybe record if I really, really want to push it, but I don't know. This category seems like it might drive me mad if I play it too much. Understandably so, with how difficult it is. So there's Peach Warp 3, and now we have Peach Warp 4, and the next split you can actually see, that's a Chapter 8 split, we're almost there!
Yeah. This is kind of the bathroom break section here.
Yeah, Peach Warp 4 is just Peach Warp 3, but you start in flower fields instead of outside the volcano.
We're really just going to Chapter 8 as fast as we can, now that we've beated our first all cards objectives.
Yep, so we've cleared everything. All we have to do is a glitch Chapter 8. Remember this Peach cutscene from like forever ago? Yeah, that guy hasn't come back yet. He's still worried about the Groundhog Day situation he's found himself trapped in. So he's still gone. We're gonna go up there, get accosted by Cammy, sent back to flower fields. We're gonna turn around and go right back into the volcano for our 7th visit. Reverse all cards just is like that, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful mess of a category, and it is so cool that this even exists.
Yeah, really, it is. the re-trigger prologue especially feels like such a miracle that, you know, we are able to do LZS to get a Cooper Super Jump, and then there's a key item in that we can, and there's a save block on top of the origin, and then there's something we can trigger prologue with beneath the origin. It's just such like the stars aligned for this trick to happen. It's so crazy.
It's so unlikely like, that something like this would exist and be found. But the Paper Mario community really has done a great job just breaking this game in half and examining the details and how everything works behind the scenes. They really have done a fantastic job of that. So
yeah, I mean, and it's one thing that it's possible, right? And then it's another thing that we can do at RTA in a speedrun. It's just crazy.
Yeah, that too. Even if it's barely possible, the fact that it is possible is just absolutely nuts in the best way.
Yeah, for sure. That's really the highlight of the run.
Yeah, the highlight of the run is that we can do it. It's possible. So here, I tried to go in the blue house, forgot that I couldn't open it because I needed the odd key earlier, and then Wacky clipped in. Lol. So now we're just heading back to the volcano. It's pretty much just what we did in the Peach Warp the Peach Warp 2 split, literally 2 hours ago. Except now we have Wacky. Yeah. We do it with Wacky instead of Sushi, which makes it a little faster and a little easier too.
Yeah, it is nice we get the best of both Peach Warps. You know, we get 2 of each.
The best of both Peach Warps is such a cursed phrase. It truly is a thing of beauty though. This game's incredible.
So. I don't know of any other game that is broken in a way that, you know, similar to this, you know, with the sequence position that we're able to manipulate and change, that affects so many things in the game. It's really unique.
It's amazing how much control you can have over this game without hacking it.
Yeah. Just by popping in the whale again.
Yeah, just just do early whale, and unfortunately it's locked behind one of the hardest tricks in the game, twice, and then Sushi Peach Warp, twice, and Retrigger Prologue, and also 4 different card LZSs that are all really hard, and Ultra Hammer Skip. There's so much. There's just so much happening.
It's,
Clippy.
Yeah, Clippy. Maybe one day we'll have Clippy removed from the run, but
maybe.
Until then.
Maybe. I don't have especially high hopes. I feel like we've done the best we can, but maybe we'll find something someday.
I have one idea, but that's for another day.
And that's for a future rack submission, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know. I still have a lot more routing in this category to do. I feel like there's a little more we can push.
I definitely think it can be optimized further. But when I was first trying out the route with the version where you don't get Mega Rush right away, I saw so many things we could do better, like constantly. It was like actually kind of painful. That's what actually inspired me to write the Mega Rush early route in the first place, was that there was just so much we could do, so much better. You know, it might only be like a few seconds here and there, but it adds up. It really does. To create a coherent and effective route. Anyway, this is the end of Peach Warp 4, and we're about to watch the post-Chapter 7 Peach intermission for the 3rd time. And we've been here for 3 hours and 20 minutes, and we're just about to hit the end game of reverse all cards. Which is basically the same as the end game for regular all cards. At least the safe route. It's pretty much the same.
Done so much more up to this point.
Yeah. Like a normal all cards run, if you have a good time, it's under 3 hours. We're at 3 hours and 20 minutes, and we're just now getting to Chapter 8, which happens to be the longest chapter, besides 6, of course.
It is kind of amazing that it really is only like an hour or less, like longer, to do them in reverse order.
Yeah, but you have to go through so much more. I think the only thing regular all cards has to do that this doesn't do is Clippy Boots. And this still does Clippy, it just doesn't do the boots part.
Yeah, they're very different speedruns, but...
They are. It's amazing how little the objective changes for how much the run changes.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're getting our star power restored after Eldstar stole all of it. We're finally back at full strength with all the stats, all the badges, all the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, the homie Kalmar is rewarding us with with our power.
The 3rd time he's granted us up and away this run.
Yeah, and good thing he is, because we will be using it.
Yeah, we are actually going to use it now. We didn't. It wasn't like this before, but wait, no, we used it once on the Duplicus, but now we're going to get some real mileage out of it in Chapter 8. So we're leaving Chapter 7 again, you know, as Lord Miyamoto intended, and we're gonna head to Chapter 8. There are sequence breaks in Chapter 8. It's not totally safe, but the level of brokenness in Chapter 8 is far less compared to what we've been doing this whole run. There are skips, but they're mostly, like, self-contained, and they skip, like, a few rooms, or maybe a fight, compared to being so broken that we get to play backwards.
Glitch Chapter 8 is definitely really cool if you haven't seen it, though.
Yeah, Glitch Chapter 8 it's really cool, and it feels really good to do, also.
Yeah, it's a really high-pressure part of the run.
It's
a lot of a lot of back-to-back tricks that are not easy.
It's like 3 major things back to back, and then it culminates with the boss fights at the end. Which, when you're at the end of a run, like sure, it's one thing. Oh, we're gonna grab quick change here, by the way. We need that badge for safe fights in Chapter 8.
Yeah, this fight, that badge allows us to have safe fights for all 3 of the final fights, which is very, very delightful.
Yeah,
after 3.5 hours of getting there.
Yeah, after how hard it was to get here, you really don't want to lose a run to something silly. After doing 2 early whales, 4 peach warps, retrigger prologue, ultra hammer skip, like all these things, you really, really don't want to die to RNG in the end game. Like, the only reason you would not pick up quick change is if you absolutely needed risky time save to PB. So, yeah, we're grabbing it. We wanted this to finish for the sake of having a run, you know. Now, unfortunately, I think the last 4 seconds of this accidentally got cut off by the trim, but thankfully there's no actual gameplay beyond that point. It's just holding B. But we'll talk about that when we get there. There's some epilogue, but that's getting a little ahead of ourselves. We have an entire chapter to beat still.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we get clipped by that ember. The movement through this room, the fast movement, is really new and really hard to master. Let's just say that. So the whole point, just get through here alive. Don't let your run die in that room. It's really sad.
Definitely keep your head on in that room.
Yeah, just whatever happens in there, you can't let it get to you, because you will just get hit sometimes, and you can't do much about it. So now we're back. We're back at Starway. Well, not back. It's here for the first time. They're gonna give us some even more power. Although I see you there, sorry, you power stealing son of a gun. Anyway, we're gonna get some more power, and they're going to produce a lovely flying bathtub for us to travel up to Bowser's castle in. For some reason, instead of going up to the top and just entering Peach's castle, we oh so politely take our shoes off at the door instead and go through normally.
Yeah. Maybe Bowser wished for that on his Star Rod.
Yeah, maybe he wished just for Mario to be polite.
Yeah. I wish the bathtub was stupid.
Oh, here's a fun little tidbit. There's no other category, at least to my knowledge, that makes use of this. But if you have a flying partner when you exit the bathtub after reaching Chapter 8, the cutscene finishes about 20 frames earlier. But in pretty much every other category, Bombette is the last partner you have out. The only reason this is different is because the last thing we do is Peach Warp. So we have Lackey out, and see how fast that was. If you compare that to any other category, it's really slow. So now I think I was still holding on to hope of maybe PBing, so I switched to Bow. You can actually spook these Koopa Trolls instead of up and away, and it is a lot faster. But it's hard to max out the bar. You'll see I don't quite make it. These guys are 1 tier harder than Pokies. I got to 98%, and of course it dinked on one of them. Why wouldn't it?
Yeah, very unlucky.
Very, very unlucky, but I suppose it's my fault for not maxing the bar. So we go again, just do another spook, and it's 99% that time, and it works. So those guys have a multiplier of 60. The Pokies, which were kind of hard, have a multiplier of 70. And the Shy Guys are 80. And that kind of represents how difficult they are to scare away with Spook. There is a set of Dupligos later that we up and away that you can spook them too. But for perspective, the Dupligos multiplier is 50. And the coup patrol is 60, and I still didn't manage quite to get it to 100%. So spooking the Dupligos is kind of out of the question, unfortunately, unless you like really strap for time and really feeling lucky.
Yeah, these are some of the more unreasonable spooks that we recommend up and away.
Yeah,
but you definitely could choose to spook if you'd like.
Yeah, it does work. It's just unlikely and really hard, but you can do it. So we get dumped in the jail. That by door 1. We just label the Bowser doors 1, 2, and 3. Although nobody talks about door 3 just because there's a boss right in front of it that everyone refers to instead.
Kills the show of door 3.
Yeah. But here's our first like major sequence break in Chapter 8. Major trick in Chapter 8 out of the 3. We're about to come up on Block Clip, which is amazingly easy for how beneficial it is. It lets you skip pretty much the entire basement segment of Bowser's Castle, hence the split name. It lets you skip the lava basement, and it lets you skip the blind basement by jumping on Lackey, coming on over here. You swap to Paracarry, and then you do a tornado jump under the corner of that block, which is positioned just right, so that when you tornado jump from the right spot, Mario climbs up onto the top of it as if he was climbing onto a stair. And then if you use Paracarry from that spot, you can just kind of fall over an invisible wall onto the ground below and just walk right back in.
There are only a few tricks on Paper Mario that I would say are absolutely free. This is one of them.
Yeah, Block Clip is incredibly easy. And that is door 1. Door 2 has the other 2 major sequence breaks, and after that it's down to the end game boss gauntlet. So the first thing that we're gonna do here is actually a long multi-step process called Fast Flood Room, which involves a lot of lackluster clips, another Cooper Super Jump, and even more lackluster clips. Seriously, there's a lot of them. So first step is that we want to Lackey clip onto the water. Remember that water is just floor, so we can just kind of clip onto it as long as we're facing away from the spot we want to clip into. And that lets us come over here. And on this screen, we Lackey clip into the map this time, hit the switch, Lackey clip back out, and you'll notice when we clip back in here, the game thinks we're on the floor when we're not. Or it thinks we're like on the water level, even though we're visually not. So that allows us to slip through the hole that the spring made. Then we fall up the top, and then spin to the left, and we have Cooper out due to our partner swap, so we jump down here, it lets us get here, and then we move a little bit, and then use Cooper's Shell Toss, which uses our stored Cooper Super Jump to grab that key, skipping like 2/3 of this room sequence.
Yeah, I remember when I was first learning all the tricks in this game, I was like, how do you do the Lackey clips? Like, how do you do it? And people told me, like, you just do it. And I didn't get it. And then I did it. And I was like, oh, you just do it.
You really do.
You just get into the corner and use Lackey, and it just happens.
So here's the other one. This is cannonless. As you might have seen, it is really fast when executed well. The initial clip out is the hardest part of cannonless, pretty much. You just need to find that spot quickly, and then the rest of it is kind of cake. It's just another out-of-bounds trick that lets us kind of schmoove around places we're not supposed to be schmooving just yet.
Yeah. Conveniently using Lackey to break Chapter 8.
Yep. Lackey breaks everything, seriously.
Yeah.
If Lackluster is available to you, you bet you can do something silly with him, no matter where you are in the game.
Yeah, they definitely made a good choice making him the last partner we receive.
Yeah. If he was available earlier, this game would be a lot more broken, and that's saying something.
Yeah. He's also very out of the way to get compared to some other partners. Like Lackluster and Watt are definitely the hardest partners to get.
Yep, and they end up being the last two we get in Rack. Interestingly, Lackluster before Watt, which is really, really weird for partner menuing. You have partner menuing in this category, unlike any other category.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's the last major trick in Chapter 8. It's called the anti-guy skip. You just answer these questions correctly, and then you don't have to fight them. Really, really easy. Anyway, this is another roughly 2-minute bathroom break. The quiz answers never change. You don't really have to pay attention to what's going on. The answers are always 112, 1132. And you only need to get 5 of them right. So even if you make 2 mistakes, you can still get through, as long as you know the 3-2 part at the end. And at this point, there are no more glitches after this. This is, at the end, this looks just like the end of any other Paper Mario run. We have officially glitched the game into submission.
It is now time to bop the final boss gauntlet.
Yep. Which, we actually... Reverse All Cards is a really cool endgame boss gauntlet. I like it a lot.
Yeah. If your junior fight goes well, then yes.
Yeah, if your junior fight doesn't go well, then it's just sad.
then you have to click Starstorm, and it's not pretty, but...
Yeah. You wanna... Oh, we've been at this for a while. You want to... You want to get a 5 cap on Junior Chirpa. If you get a 4 cap, you out-of-sight Starstorm, which is really slow, but it still kills every time. If you get a 3 cap, you're on your own, buddy. Good thing there's a save block nearby.
Yeah.
And you can usually kill them anyway, and have enough resources, but it's just really unfortunate that can happen. So we need this jam and jelly. I'm gonna toss that dried shrimp for it because I want to keep that dolly in our inventory as a memento of what we've accomplished throughout the run.
Yeah. A reminder of what we've done.
Yeah. A reminder of how hard the game's been busted. No doubt. You can actually eat the dolly. Any item that isn't explicitly like a battle item only is allowed to be eaten in the field or in battle. So if you glitch any key items into your inventory, you can eat them, which is really funny. They don't do anything, but you can eat them.
Yeah, unfortunately they don't do anything, but it is very funny.
Yeah.
Especially since you can eat Goombaria's dolly right in front of her.
Yeah. Would be a good incentive, no doubt.
Yeah.
Taunt Goombaria. So here's the Endless Stair Hallway. This is basically the final challenge before the bosses, and it's really not much of a challenge. You just up, down, down, up, down, up. There you go. Get out of here. But you do still have to do it, and it's actually really easy to miss jumping up onto higher stairs, especially if you're on PV pace and like stressing out a little bit. It's easy to lose like a deceptive amount of time in these hallways by just missing jumps. And we've pretty much arrived at the end. This is the Duplighost fight coming up. I say fight in air quotes because we just click up and away, and they are deleted from the game.
Click up and away and cross our fingers.
Yeah. You can get dinks, and it really sucks if you do, but it's not a run killer.
Yeah, you can just use Paracarry to airlift them, and then hit the hard block to get your FP back if you use too much.
Absolutely. Fortunately, I believe this works on all of them. Yeah, this works on all 4 of them. It's like an 81% chance that they'll all 4 be whisked away to the heavens above. And here is the beginning of the boss gauntlet. The Duplighosts are actually the beginning of the boss gauntlet, but they're literally nothing. This is the first actual fight. So, it looks like you're gonna rematch the Koopa Bros, who are obviously angry that we destroyed them so quickly. And then Junior Troopa comes and beat them up just as quickly as we did, and we have to fight him to move on. So
But
this...
I didn't even think we really destroyed the Koopa Bros.
Yeah, we really did. They must be mad.
That was literally the last boss we fought, and they're already back.
Yeah! They sure spent a long time training for the rematch, huh?
Yeah.
So this is the first fight we use quick change in. Basically, it makes partner swaps free actions. So as you can see, we switched to Paracarry, did a shell shot, then switched to bow, did out of sight. We didn't have any action on the next turn, but now it's time to bounce on Junior Troopa until he dies. And we got a crazy cap. That was at least a 6. We only needed a 4 to win. And we only needed a 5 to win fast, but there was no cap, so... Junior Troopa is gone, and now we're down to the final confrontation with Bowser. With a quick rebadge first, of course, and gotta eat that jam and jelly to restore our FP. Despite being a full game category, we end with only 25 FP, which is a little low, considering we also don't have optional badges to back it up. So we do need to make sure it stays high. Excuse me, in the gauntlet here. So the next part is Hallway Bowser, who is kind of a pushover, thanks in part to Out of Sight and his scripted AI.
Yeah, and the fact that we enter with peril.
Yeah.
We used Up and Away on the Koopa Trolls and the Dupligos so that we wouldn't level up on Junior Troopa, and we would have peril for this fight and for the next one.
Yep. So we enter in peril, and we're gonna click Power Bounce, and whoopsie, we did 13, 18, 22 damage. Immediately. He only has 50 HP. We already did 22.
Kind of
and now we get another Power Bounce after an Out of Sight. That's 7, 13, 18, 22. So now he has 6 HP left. And he's scripted to use Star Rod on turn 2, so the fact that we can't be intangible doesn't matter. Because we can hit through the Star Rod. Power Jump and Mario's attack up badges with Mega Rush are just so powerful that we break through his defense buff and kill him. So
yeah.
He doesn't even get to hit. He doesn't even have a fighting chance. He doesn't get to hit us even a single time in the hallway fight. No matter what your RNG is.
As a kid, I never realized that the Star Rod in this fight just buffs him. Like, it doesn't make him invincible.
Yeah.
Like it does in the next fight.
Yeah, I never realized that either.
Power jump.
When I was running glitchless at the beginning, when I was on hallway, I always starbeamed on turn 3. I always did starbeam Out of Sight because I didn't understand that you could just hit through it until someone pointed it out that I was doing that wrong.
Yeah.
Whoops.
I mean, I'm not sure how you're supposed to figure that out unless you do it, right?
Yeah, I don't know either. So now
you're definitely conditioned from prologue to think that he's invincible.
Yeah, definitely. You just can't do anything to him, but...
in reality, he just had, like, 1 defense.
Yeah, they buffed him by 3 defense on JP, and even less in English. Power jumps on a buffed hallway actually do 9 on English instead of 8. So he only has 3 defense on English, which is kind of a pathetic buff considering how high it's played up to be. Or how bad it's played up to be that he gets buffed like that. Anyway, we're heading into final. We did a quick rebadge before this fight to put on Fire Shield. We do a really cool Peril Manip using Fire Shield and Sushi's Water Block move with Quick Change that more or less ensures we get Peril from final after 2 attacks. But for Phase 1, it's basically the same as Hallway Bowser. We just beat the crap out of him, and eventually he pulls out the Star Rod, but this time we can't hit him through it, so we just use Star Beam like we're supposed to. Now this fight is actually shared with several other categories because it's a safe Bowser fight. Like, this is pretty much 100% consistent if you have a life shroom. And it doesn't require you to have, like, really high stats. It doesn't require you to have a lot of consumables, just a repel gel and one life shroom for backup. It's a really versatile fight that almost never loses, so it's used across several different categories. Just anything that can do it probably has that as the safe route of said category. Glitchless being the exception to that, but we have more stats in Glitchless to work with. Anyway, here's our late game P break. Is the fight with Kami Koopa. She's this is all scripted. There's nothing you can do but hold B and mash A, as you can see if you look at the input display down there.
Okay, I was disconnected for a bit. Did you talk about the final Bowser fight yet?
I explained that we do a Peril Mimic with Water Block and Fire Shield. That's about it. We're in
we'll
the
talk
Kami
about
fight.
it what's actually going on.
Yeah, we're in the Kami fight right now.
This is probably my all-time favorite final Bowser fight.
It's really cool. It uses most of the friends you made along the way, you know?
Yeah. It really all comes together in a really nice way. And it's really consistent.
Yeah.
Like it actually just can't go wrong if you block the attacks. Like,
if you have a backup life shroom, excuse me. If you have a backup life shroom, it is basically impossible to lose, unless you miss blocks or something. But that's that's its own issue. That's not really the route's fault.
Yeah, this route does expect to come in with a backup life shroom. So.
Yep. And you only use it if you get turn 3 plus turn 6 shield, which is incredibly rare. That's 2 15% RNG calls. Or if you get back caps on your power bounces. And in both cases, I believe you just die and then power jump on the next turn and it wins.
It's just a bit of time lost, but usually you won't see that happen.
Oh, I think it's Starstorm, not Power Jump. Not that matters. I think we don't have the FP for Power Jump. Anyway, we're heading into Final, and this fight, turn by turn, is really interesting. So first we start off with Peach Beam, and that disables his defenses, and then we swap to Sushi with Quick Change and use Water Block. And the combination of Water Block, our own blocks, and Fire Shield ensures that every attack Bowser does exactly 7 damage. It doesn't matter what he chooses to do. And we have 15 HP.
We have 15 HP, and 15 minus 15 is 1, which puts us in peril.
Yep.
So if we can walk through the attacks, then we'll be in peril. And the first couple of turns, the first 2 turns, he's guaranteed to use normal attacks. So.
Yep. So on turn 2, we're still waiting for him to get us in peril, so we do a little bit of DPS with Power Jump Shell Shot. Does a good amount of damage. And then at the end of turn 2, he puts us into peril. And then we start hammering him with a sweet power bounce, backed up by an out of sight, so that we maintain peril for longer. And there are 2 different turns on which Bowser can shield. I actually got turn 3 shield here, which is really, really rare. That 15% that I mentioned earlier. But due to having Bow and a Repel Gel that we use on the next turn, it doesn't matter whether he shields on turn 3 or turn 4. The result is the same, RNG-wise. We use Peach Beam again on the on the free turn that Repel gives us. And then we quick change to Watt and use Turbocharge. So we're getting ready to drop some serious damage on him while we disable his defenses right here. What Turbocharge does is it increases your attack by 1 for every hit. It's like a jump charge that applies to every jump. It doesn't wear off after a certain number of turns. Or it doesn't wear off after one attack, rather. So we do another power bounce, we get a 3 cap, it literally doesn't matter because this fight is so good. We are no longer repelled, so we have to out of sight here, and Bowser chooses to wave. But it doesn't matter because he is in range to die from a 3 bounce with turbocharge. I keep bouncing on him because I'm spiteful like that.
It's really awesome that this fight works out this well. As Bowser's AI is extremely complex, the most complex out of any boss in this game. There's a lot of RNG and a lot of things that he can do, and a lot of ways he can go off script. But this fight is completely consistent. It's very good.
Yeah, it is amazingly consistent. It is so good. And there we go. Bowser is down. The reason that was plus 49 on my gold was because of the risky strats. I have done them before in an attempt to PB a nearly impossible run, so that's why my golds are like that. But that is the normal Bowser fight. It is exceptionally consistent. It really isn't that slow. Like, the most time you lose is just setting it up with the sushi upgrade and getting quick change. And it works like a charm. You can run this fight 100 times and probably not lose a single one if you have the backup life shroom.
Yeah, this fight is awesome.
It really is. It's art. This fight is art.
Yeah, it's you know it's art because it can fit on one page.
Yeah, that too.
Other Bowser fights are like 2-3 pages long. It's awful.
the any percent Bowser fight, if you go on SRC and look at the optimal any percent fight, there is an entire document of different variations of what Bowser can do and what you should do. If he does X, then you should do Y. Yeah. There's like 15 whole pages of that, I think. In any percent.
It's crazy.
Whereas this fight, you can do the same thing every time and you win every time. It's really, really nice. Especially considering the absurd complexity of Bowser's decision making.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is it. That is a reverse all cards run. Time actually doesn't end just yet. Time ends when Peach raises her hands in the ending cutscene. Unfortunately, I might have trimmed the VOD about 4 seconds too short at the end because I couldn't control what I was doing very well. So, we're actually gonna... You'll have to take my word for it that it ends roughly 4 seconds after, after the recording does. But yeah, all that happens is Peach raises her hands, and we literally just hold B for like 3.5 minutes at this point.
Yeah, there is, the excitement's not over, there's one more trick left.
There is one more trick, that's true, there's one more trick.
It's kind of a meme, and also a great donation incentive, but...
Yeah, well, we won't spoil it just yet.
Yeah. We'll get there soon. By soon, I mean 3 minutes, so bathroom break, I guess.
Yeah. Even if you're watching this to see what this run would be like for a marathon, you still have time for a bathroom break. This is just holding B the movie at this point. So. The epilogue consists of Peach has another party. I guess she wants to make up for the one that got crashed by Bowser. So she has Parakarry send invitation letters to all of Mario's other partners, which is kind of a nice touch. I think it's really cute. So there's one to Goombario, there's one to Bombette. Colorado's wife was giving Parakarry a talking to there. Wonder what that's about. There's a letter to Bo. A letter to Watt in the toy box. I guess she went back there to live after the events of the game. The letter to Sushi. And, who could forget, a letter to the most broken partner in the game, Mr. Lackluster himself. Oh, but actually, there's one more. Well, two more, I suppose. So here's Cooper. He's living his dreams. He's going on a trip with Colorado, his idol, and so Parakarry delivers Cooper's letter from Peach, and Colorado's like, "Yeah, you should go enjoy the party." And Parakarry's like, "Oh, by the way, your wife's leaving you. You're sleeping on the couch from now on." And he turns around and he jets back home, just leaving our pair of Tanners there to just. I have no idea what's going on. So they just walk away. Anyway, so here's the last trick. Are you ready? Because this one's a doozy. This is called Luigi Skip. All you have to do is hold down on the control stick, and you skip a cutscene with Luigi in the following room.
Where Luigi would be walking to the party. Instead, we are leaving him in there.
Yep, leaving him in the dust. And we're heading to that
about 7 seconds faster.
Yep, it saves a pretty chunky amount of time. Anyway, this is the...
For a measly down input, I'll take 7 seconds.
Yeah, I'll take 7 seconds, hell. Alrighty, and here we go. Time is on Peach Hands Up. And the recording ends abruptly at 6 minutes and 3 seconds on the final split. I don't know how that ended up happening. That was really embarrassing that I trimmed it that short on accident. But yeah, that's the end of the recording. So it got trimmed in a way I didn't mean it to, unfortunately, but
I promise you the game ends right there.
Yeah, it ends about 4 seconds after the VOD cuts out is when Peach raises her hands. So I feel okay about submitting this because there's no meaningful gameplay after that point.
Yeah.
Or
and you
anything.
You did mention it.
Yeah. Unfortunate about the VOD trim, but that's just how it turned out. Anyway, Reverse All Cards is honestly...
Ooh!
Reverse All Cards is a doozy. It has to be the most viewer-friendly, exciting, flashy category that Paper Mario has to offer.
Yeah.
And frankly, it's not even that close.
It's a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, it is a big crowd pleaser. A lot of people who played this game in their youth almost certainly don't know that you can play this game this way. And that has very wide appeal, I think, for viewers' sake. That we can actually do this. And it's so cool, you know, from the perspective of someone who didn't always play this game as a speed game. It is so cool to see people tear it open like this in such a way. Because I guarantee you, when we were kids, we had no idea just how broken it really was. The whole time.
Power of pape science at work.
Has the power of pape science gone too far? Nah.
I think it went far enough for Reverse All Cards.
Yeah, I think it went exactly the right amount and no further.
Yep.
So yeah. Please consider Reverse All Cards for your marathon. And I would love to be a part of it. And yeah, thank you so much. This has been M4. I have been commentating with my friend and fellow Reverse All Cards enthusiast Arie. It has been a pleasure to run the game and to do this commentary, and hopefully we can take it further.
Thank you.
Of course. Alright. Thank you guys. I'm gonna cut the stream here. Yeah, good night everybody.